Yeah.
Hey guys, we're starting the stream here. We got a couple of friends with us today. Let's do a little roll call as we're starting everything off. Whichever one of you guys wants to say their name first.
All right. Well, I'm Halamizer.
I'm
Daniel.
Cal. Oh, I cut off him.
Just like the simulations.
Okay, so
We were prepared for this.
what's your name, kids?
Oh, right now I'm hearing it.
All right, I'm Persian.
Hello.
I'm Halamizer.
I'm Daniel Zeal. Oh,
No.
that's Cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I messed that up.
And then
Card
who's the last
There we
person
go.
that we have in here?
Is it Timmy?
The Goblin.
No, it's not
Taco
Taco Timmy. It's
The Goblin.
Toast. It's you, Toast.
No, I'm Cal.
Your cow. And
That's
then
Cow.
You can use
That's a
it.
cow.
That is a
you have
cow.
your favorite
Cow. He said that
favorite
himself.
mana goblin here to lead the way. We are going to be ranking all the legendary creatures in terms of viability and commander, from bulk bin to competitive.
It's gonna be nothing competitive. We're gonna get through this. There might be
Yeah,
a card.
My prediction is we're gonna have 2 cards in competitive by the end of them, and we're gonna have to like fight to get that
We
second card up
probably
in
will
there.
have to fight.
Oh, you're gonna have to fight me. Yeah, I'm gonna shoot down your.
We'll just make sure my everyone's on full volume, which they should be. Okay, there we go. We need to turn you guys down later on. I will. But what card? Does someone want to pick a card that we can talk about first? What do we want to look at first?
I think we could do like alphabetical order. I have a Scryfall list just pulled up on the side here, and I have a small amount of notes, not a whole lot, but I have them all here.
Okay, for sure. Let's sort by name then. So
All right,
first one, who's
I think Agar is
Agar.
first.
Agar.
The freezing
well,
flame.
go ahead and
yes.
tell me what he is, Persian.
Well, so he's a legendary creature, giant wizard. He costs 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 red, and his text says whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent control is dealt excess damage, if a giant wizard or spell you control that dealt damage to it this turn, draw a card.
So it has card draw. It has pseudo trample with for spells. Isn't there a unglued instant that has trample on a spell?
Yeah, there is. I forget the name of it, but there is.
This one has such a specific trigger. I definitely don't see it as competitive, or personally, I don't even think I would use it as a commander. It's got your blue and red, which is nice, but only a 3/3 as well.
I mean, it's good in theory. It's out from the competitive end because if someone's doing that much damage to you, it's going to kill you. It's maybe okay in casual if people are doing excess damage, because that's very common. But I would not rely on this.
You wouldn't even run it as a commander?
Yeah, no, because it relies on you dealing damage to something else after it takes a specific action. It's incredibly easy to just make it so that that never happens.
When I was looking at
say
Agar,
bulk it.
when I was looking at
I'd
Agar,
say
I thought a
Barton.
couple of things. I thought it's great for like a spell slingers deck for sure, because there's not a whole lot of giants, and I actually looked into giants in Izzet. There isn't a whole lot of Izzet giants. You get a lot out of Boros and Naya, so like when you include like that green or that white, you can get like a lot of really powerful giants. You miss out on things like Earthshaker or Sundering Titan by not having it in those colors. This is also a very small giant. Like, it's a 3/3 body, which can get very easily killed without any protection. So I feel like I agree. It's nice to include in a Izzet deck especially because in those instances where there's overkill, like if you have overkill or trample on a creature, sometimes it's not always like the best thing, because you almost feel like you've
Right.
wasted the damage in some cases, like especially for spells. But it makes it suck less. So I would definitely include this like in the 99 or as like a casual commander, but more so in the 99. I'm pretty much agreeing with Daniel and Cow here.
It giving it to the deck, if you had a tribal around giants or wizard, I can see it working in the 99. I'm torn between 99 and bulk bin on this one.
I'm completely okay putting this in potential. Like I'm leaning more towards bulk bin, honestly, only because like I did when looking at goblins a few weeks ago. Not goblins, giants. I'm always looking at goblins. For giants, there's not a lot of support for giants as it is. Wizards, definitely like a lot of blue and red wizards, but agreeing with Cow's like access damage being like I'm trying to think is dealt access damage. Although common is just like what you're dealing you're dealing a few extra points of damage to something that you could have used somewhere else just to draw a card. I am agreeing with the 99, although I do not mind seeing that thrown out.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bottom of the
lean
99
towards
list.
bulk bin as well, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I would also agree with the bulk bin analysis of it.
I'm gonna move this to bulk
Alright.
bin then if nobody else has
So-
any vetoes on that.
Yeah, I think it's like top of bulk bin or like bottom of
Okay.
include in 99, somewhere in there.
Okay, next one we have is Alrund, God of the Cosmos. He's 3 generic and 2 blue. He gets +1/+1 for each card in your
So,
hand and each card foretold. Beginning of your end step, choose a card type, then reveal top 2 cards of your library. You put all the cards of the chosen type in your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library. There's a backside of him too. Hack out the Whispering Raven for a generic and a blue. It has flying. Whenever it deals combat damage, you can scry 2 and return to the hand.
So on this one, there's a couple of good things about it and a couple of bad things about it. The first is that its main kind of side to it, Alrund, is a 1/1 for 5 CMC, which isn't inherently bad, but if it's going to be your commander, that's going to be a really high CMC commander for an effect that, in my opinion, doesn't really trigger as well. The hand to the damage is nice, but that foretold, I honestly don't see a lot of people having like 6 foretold cards on the field at one shot.
No,
And
you'd
to
have to
get to
build
that-
tribal foretold, and there's
Yeah.
not enough cards for that
You don't-
functionally yet.
And even if you get to that point, you have 5 mana to summon him, and then you're spending 2 mana on each foretold for it to basically to sit off the field and not really use its effect. But the bird is nice early, just to get some damage out. The
To
catch,
get
though,
damage and a scry.
yeah,
It's
the catch though is if you do not land that hit with the bird and it gets killed, your commander now costs 7 CMC for an effect that I don't really think is worth it. I would say put this
I
in
wouldn't
casual.
say like it. You don't have to build tribal foretold. Realistically, if you're building a mono blue deck around this, you don't even need to run any foretold cost if you're just doing card draw.
Mhm.
Right, but then it's a terrible draw engine.
Yeah, there's a lot
It's
cheaper.
minimum 5 mana and or 2 mana and taking 2 turns before I can swing, after which I have to take another 2 turns.
And on top of that, that card draw only works if you pretty much have a tribal built around it. Because if you draw 2 lands, those cards are going to the bottom of your library. This also means that card draw, you're not going to be able to draw things that are not your
Right.
specified
It
types.
It's a standard card. It works really well in a standard game where you can run multiples, but there's just not enough. There's not enough foretell in blue to make it super viable. And if you have too many other colors, it's like, well, why am I not just doing something completely different?
Okay, so if you're trying to just spice up your deck, and if you have filler, you can include it in your 99, but it's not exactly bulk bin level.
No, it's definitely better than bulk bin, and for the sake of how the graph is laid out, it's a little bit stronger than the tier for 99. But I would certainly never make this my commander.
I think I agree with everyone here. I especially think like Haka is probably actually more strong than the actual than Alrund himself, because
For sure.
the fact that for 2 mana you get a 2/2 flyer or 2/3 flyer, and then you can scry off of it. So it's not bad, but like the fact that you can scry early, that does help blue with, let's say, any like hand fixing early in the game, which is nice.
I do
'cause
have
then you can predict
one
your next
thing I
draws,
want to
but-
point out. If
Yeah.
you're not the ruling, because again the flip face cards are still relatively new, but if you're not using this as a commander, you cannot tutor the bird side from the deck to the field. There's no way
Right.
to do that. If it comes out of the deck into play, it has to be the front face.
Right. Yeah, no, I
So
wouldn't
it's
run
very
this
hard
on
to
the.
cheat it out.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just not mythic. Like, we're gonna get to some other stuff later where I'm gonna be like, this should have been a mythic, and then we have this because they felt like they needed a god, but they didn't want to make it too powerful.
Right. So, so Haka and Alrund, or like pseudo Odin, I guess.
Yeah, in 99 at best.
And every
but
time
they are borderline.
moves
chaff.
over.
That could change, mind you. I want to point out, if there's more foretell in the future, and the mechanic gets a lot of support or some cool cards, it could change. But right now, it's dead in the water as far as EDH is concerned, because you just don't have the cards without splitting your colors too thin for the 30 some odd foretell cards you're gonna need.
I 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. It definitely belongs in the 90. It can definitely be in a 99, and it could be something that could be a lot stronger later on, but without the support, I agree with Cal. There's nothing really right now.
Okay. I'll keep Alrund in the 99, and for the backside of the cards, I just have them in for mainly reference at this point, so I'll keep them down below. But yeah, so Alrund 99.
Sure.
I don't know what kind of deck you would put in the 99, but it's there.
I would say a giant deck might complement him.
Yeah,
well.
but we can't. Unfortunately, we can't have decks over 100 cards in Commander. If that was the case, then definitely. But
I could see it being good in a card draw deck.
yeah, card draw deck for sure. But I mean, like you, as a leader in a deck like that.
Yeah. The main concern is his CMC, right? Because if you're going to have a card draw, you're going to want for some cheap engines. You're going to want things like Remora, Ristic Study, and by the time that you get 5 mana on the field, card draw is still a good priority, but it's not really your highest priority, and it leaves you open if that's all you're focusing.
We get to move on to Arnie. Arnie, Broken Brow.
Yep.
He's
He'll be back.
Now this is fun.
Okay, you
So,
go ahead with this, Cal.
Before we even get started, I'm sorry. I just want to clarify the mechanic. then
You
I'll
say
let
the
you
whole
go
card,
ahead.
man.
Yep.
The mechanic is what I'm concerned with here. I'm not stealing that thunder. I just want to clarify how this rule, how it works, so that we keep in mind the restrictions. So
Why don't
both,
we?
it's a unique
Sorry.
ability based on its cost. You can only activate it if the creature attacked, and a limit of once per turn.
Okay.
So, with that said, I guess
Go ahead
I'll
with the card.
Arnie Broken Bro is
Bro.
bro.
Let's say Broken
Brow.
Brow.
No, Arnie Broken Bro can just visually correct it. Get like a Chad face on him. Anyway, after that, he's a 1 red and 2 colorless legendary human berserker with haste, and he can boast for 1 mana to change his attack to base power to 1+. You can change his base power to 1+ the greatest power among other creatures you control until the end of turn. I don't know how that works. Does anyone know enough about this set to know how that can work with something?
So,
yeah, so
with the boast trigger, it's going to attack. After it does that attack, but before it deals damage, you're allowed to activate that.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
during its combat phase, let's say you have a 10/10 on the field or something like that, you got a big stomping monster, this one is going to make contact. Well, now you're going to change that to an 11 damage, and it's going to be a nice swap there.
Yeah, especially if it's a commander that I can see, because now you okay. So yeah, you could use it in like red green, but then it's a 99. Huh, man. You know, this would be really cool if he had partner.
I could see this working in. Yes.
That
I
would
could
be
see
a
this
competitor.
working with running something that will give you double strike, but double strike in red is a little bit harder to find.
No, not too much. If double strike is anywhere, it's in red.
Well, you
I
could
mean,
do
colorless
Emberclave, right?
artifact. I mean, look at red. It has more artifact support than ever with
Double masters.
the not even double masters. The one guy that lets you tutor artifacts out.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Magda.
Magda, we'll get to
Magda,
Magda.
there we
We'll
go.
get to Magda.
Which we'll
I
get
don't want
to.
to talk. I don't
Oh,
want
yeah,
to
we'll
talk
get
about
to
her.
Magda.
Let's just too much.
She was gonna come up. She's one of the
I know.
best cards
I
in
know.
the set.
Let's start. So let's talk about where we put in Arnie first, and then we'll skip ahead to Magda.
I think
So-
he has interesting potential as a commander, and I'll just say casual. I won't say holds its own, but it would be fun to build a deck around.
I'm agreeing
That's
with that
my
too.
vote.
Yeah.
I was looking at like Arnie, and I also looked at a bunch of like the red cards that could definitely be included in an Arnie deck. I think like you just have to put out big creatures, and I immediately thought like Atali is a really good card. Hellkite Tyrant is a great card to include in the deck for Arnie. Atali just for the fact that like every time you're swinging out, like you can get more value and get more like big creatures on the field, especially if you're facing up against like, let's say if you're facing up against like a big creature green deck and you have Atali swing and then Arnie swing. Well, now Atali can get out like another creature from your opponent's deck. You get Arnie to get really big. And then I was also going to mention Embercleave because Embercleave just seems like a match made in heaven for Arnie. Like any equipment you can put on him would be really good. I feel like this is a solid, like fun to play casual deck, but not necessarily like a really like hard carry casual deck.
Yeah,
Like-
like you could do it, and it'll
So-
be fun.
Well, I
I
don't
think
want
it's
to
like the fun one, yeah.
I don't want to put him in the competitive, but I think he should go a little bit higher than casual because I can see a couple of combos that you can do. Because one thing that we haven't really been talking about is he has haste. So let's say you were to mix something like Sneak Attack. You use 1 red mana, you just tutor the biggest card in your hand to the field. You use 3 mana, you slap him down, he can attack that turn. Then what you do is you boast him. So you've maybe spent 5 mana, but now you got a 7/7 from your hand onto the field. Arnie becomes an 8. Now you've done 8 commander damage as well. So I think I'm going to vote for a little bit higher than casual, but definitely not competitive.
But how are you going to do that consistently
Well,
That was the thing I was thinking
in
too.
mono
yeah, like,
red necessarily?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because we can't partner him. Now, as part of the 99, that's fine, but that's actually a step lower.
But I think if you run him with stuff like Sneak Attack, Emberclave, getting him that damage buff, I think that he does have a lot of potential.
Yeah, sneak attack is great. I'm just trying to think of how we repeat it. Like sneak attack is okay, but we need a really bulky deck then. And how are we pulling that quick enough?
But
Mm-hmm.
And if sneak attack's the outlet in your deck, then I'm getting removal for sneak attack, which is quite easy if I'm up against anything
Right.
green or otherwise.
I'd stick him
That
in
is
high end casual. If we, depending on what the board looks like after, we can put him in low to medium, holds its own if we need to.
I do like the fact though that he has a very low mana cost. Like
Yeah.
3 mana is pretty good for like any aggro deck, especially in red. Like lower mana costs are always going to be useful for you. So I do like him in that sense. I think he's fun for sure in casual. I don't think he would be like
For real?
very high tier. I could be wrong, 100%.
They-
But
Well, no. I mean, look at the prices. There's not even speculation. There's no way to break him yet. I mean, the prices do have some validity at this point, right? If people cared, it would be above 20 cents for the foil.
mhm.
But if he had partner, oh my god, oh, he would be borderline competitive.
He'd be competitive with partner.
Yeah.
One final note I want to say though, he does have one of my favorite like flavor texts, which is I headbutted a troll and won. And he's just got like this tooth of a troll. in his
The
head, so I
flavor is
love it.
definitely fun.
That's his pride.
I like the flavor.
And his altar is pretty nice too.
Oh yeah.
Bergie? Is that how you say Bergie? God of Storytelling.
Oh man, I'm just gonna give this one to Cal.
Let's eat the burger.
What? Why me?
Oh, because I feel like this is the type of card that you want to just talk about.
Honestly, not specifically. I think it's cool, but I'll let someone else take the helm.
Yeah, unless if anyone, I'll read the name. It's God of Storytelling for 2 generic and a red. Whenever you cast a spell, add 1 red until the end of turn. You don't lose mana as steps and phases end. And creatures you control can boost twice during each of your turns rather than once.
8.
It also has the backside there too.
On the backside for 4 generic and a red
For bird.
is artifact, discard a
Yep.
card, and exile top 2 cards of your library, and you can play them until the end of turn, which is not bad.
For 5 mana though.
Yeah, that's
And in mono red.
Yeah,
Honestly-
once again, it's the problem. It's like they're taking all these monocolored gods and they're saying play only this color with only this mechanic. And it's the most frustrating thing ever because that's great. I love my discard outlet in red.
the boast twice seems like it could be very useful in the future if they decide to keep the boast mechanic.
Right.
But
It's
currently, I don't see a lot of outlets for boast.
right.
There's a
It's the
couple.
exact same thing as blue, where it's okay. This is great, but the mechanic needs more support because there's not enough cards. Let me.
To me, I'm not looking at the boast mechanic so much as I'm looking at like the added mana you get in red, because whenever you which is whenever you cast a spell, you add 1 red mana, and then until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases. And I like this because when I'm thinking about how I'd want to play Burgi, especially in mono red, I'd play like a storm deck, right? And so you can just storm out a whole bunch of spells, deal a whole ton of damage. I don't think this is necessarily competitive, but I could actually see it as casual or holds its own, purely for the fact of like the storm mechanics behind its potentially.
I'm
really,
liking
really
the
good.
storm as well.
Not
I can see this pairing well with something like Leyline Tyrant as well, or even if you were running mono red, Horizon Stone, just not losing that mana between phases as well.
Well, you don't need Horizon Stone with her.
Mm-hmm.
between turns, you mean?
Yes, my apologies. Turns.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're running mono red with her, you don't even need Horizon Stone. You just need her.
Yes, but you're gonna lose it between turns.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Then it would still turn to colorless. Horizon Stone. Does that work that way?
I mean, like you can just finish it off
Yeah.
with like.
yeah.
So
So it
the
just
reason I'm
stays
saying-
colorless forever.
Yeah, but honestly, if you're running mono, you don't need to worry too much about losing
About
the color on the mana. Your lands should be enough to sustain you by the time you have this out and a Horizon Stone out.
Yeah, like you could absolutely do this with Horizon Stone and the other stuff. I feel like you can just keep a flow of red going, but what do you use that flow of red on? I'm trying to figure out the outlet for any of these.
See, like I'm thinking, like when you go like full red, like storm here, like you'll end it off with like Grape Shot. You'll end it off with like a spell like that, and you get things like Blood Moon. So this way you can annoy your opponents. You just do like a whole bunch of red spells, and you just burn through your opponent's health. You probably will need more than just red. Like you'll probably need to run something more than just storm within the deck, because I don't believe there's a whole lot of like storm spells in red necessarily. I think there's a lot of like red blue, but it's definitely something that like on its own it can definitely do really well, and it could push into competitive if we see some more support for like storm type decks in red.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. I'd put her at low. Holds its own, honestly. I mean, like I want to see. I'm sure there's some sort of potential that she has with the with her first ability there. If Boast gets more support, then I can definitely see this being more feasible that way too. I'm not too excited about her backside, but I mean, any objections?
I
Good on
think
this
I'm
one?
good on this one.
No.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Cosima, God of Voyage, 2 generic and a blue. Beginning of your upkeep, you may exile her. If you do, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if she's exiled, you put a Voyage counter on it. If you don't, return Cosima to the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters and draw X cards, where X is the amount of Voyage counters on it. And she's mono blue, which is kind of weird for a land ability like that. She has a vehicle for 1 generic and blue, the Omen Kel. Whenever a vehicle you control deals damage to a player, that player exiles that many cards from the top of the library. You may play those cards. You may play land cards from those cards as long as they remain exiled. That's crew 1.
So this is an interesting effect here. I feel like this commander would be significantly better off if it was green and had a little bit more landfall around it, as we don't see much landfall in the blue category, with the exception of that dreaded Ruin Crab.
I mean, you see some of it, but not. Once again, it's just not enough, and it's too slow. The vehicles thing is interesting, and I like that. But again, landfall in blue. Why am I? I would toss it in the 99 and like
Completely.
a landfall heavy deck. Like I'd consider it maybe, but
This would go good in Omnath.
I was just
believe,
gonna
as a
say,
90.
I feel like either. I feel like the vehicle or the Cosmo, like one half of it, you're going for one strategy. It's very hard to make both of those work. Unless you can, like, you're either getting the creature benefit or you're getting the vehicle benefit.
I'm very tempted. I'm not gonna lie. The Amonkhet is just very tempting to do like a vehicle tribal deck.
Yeah,
Just
I
for
know,
the fun of it.
but it's not
But-
just vehicle tribal. It's vehicle tribal mill. Except I can play
Exactly.
the exiled land cards.
Exactly.
There's all kinds of jank. It's just not viable because it's vehicles, and vehicles need crews, and
Exactly.
I don't have a workaround for all this, and certainly not in mono blue.
I would put Omen
Definitely
Kel
not.
above her in the 99. I would probably play her backside in a deck rather than the front side.
And you would do it just for the fun of it. I mean, Amonkhet is just hilarious to me, right? You just have like a vehicle that just steals, like it's basically a pirate ship. Like your
Yeah.
ship swings into other people's stuff.
and it
you take their
exiles their
stuff.
library.
Yeah, you basically take their stuff out of their library. It's perfect. It's funny. I definitely think though it's a 99.
I agree
This
with
is
that.
definitely a 99.
We're ready to move on to the next one? Aegon,
Yeah, let's go to Aegon.
God of Death.
Man. I realize I'm the Debbie Downer, but God.
2 generic and a black.
Not
I mean, it's 6/6, but
It is a 6/6.
it's a great late game play. What's the artifact?
Artifact, beginning of each card, you mill a card.
Artifacts-
Beginning of
artifacts
each turn,
trash.
you
Too
mill,
expensive.
and then you can pay 2 generic and a black and tap it, and you exile a creature card from your graveyard to draw a card. I mean,
No, we want the 6/6 Death
Yeah.
Touch God. That
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
requires us to. That's. I feel like it's useful utility to potentially deal with certain stuff, but
I don't know, like what?
I feel like this would go good in a deck so long as it is not your commander. Like, this seems like something you would just whip out in the mid game and just get a couple free hits out with it. But
BRB
I-
real quick.
don't see a lot of use out of this
Yeah,
one.
same. I'm not seeing anything with her either. Him.
I mean, Aegon as a commander himself is nothing particular for mono black, and there's a lot of better mono black
Yeah.
commanders out there. Mono black on its own though is pretty strong. So I mean, if you think about it, having a 3-mana 6/6 in the mid game, to just kind of like push that bit of damage you might need, it isn't bad, especially if you build like a beat down like mono black deck, which is a little bit difficult.
Right.
But it can be done. I think like no matter what, I agree with Cal. You play the creature side, but it's not that strong.
Yeah, 99. 99.
99.
You still there, Hillamizer?
Nope, he is gone,
LOL.
unfortunately. We're waiting for him to return.
Oh, he said.
We will await
I
for our
think
king's
he
return.
departed. Yeah, no, he said he departed. That's okay. If he comes back, he comes back. That's fine.
We'll have to
I'm
say
gonna
him
skip
back in.
the next one in line just for until Cal comes back. But the next one after that is Frisia, the Judge of Valor. She is 2 generic, 1 white, and 2 black. So 5 mana. She's an Angel Cleric. With flying a lifelink. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 in your hand and the rest in your library. You have self-milling. Zombie decks will have a good time with this.
This is a rather nice card as well. The giving you the ability to kind of put 2 cards in the graveyard really helps with dredge and other effects that play out of the graveyard.
Most mono black decks.
I'm still not completely sold as a commander for this one, but this is definitely, I'd say, a tier more powerful than included in your 99.
I would put her in Hold Zone. She has
Yeah.
the ability to stock up your graveyard is if you're playing a black centric deck, and the access to whites gives you a bit more protection and reanimation. You can run things like what's that one giant that whenever it attacks you can reanimate something from your grave that's white.
Oh, Grave Titan.
Sundering Titan
Sundering Titan.
as well. Stuff like that would be.
Sundering Titan
Sorry,
is
not
banned
Sundering
in
Titan.
EDH, though.
Sun Titan.
Sun Titan. Sorry,
Yes.
that's what I meant.
Sun Titan.
Yeah.
Remove the during. We're not
Um,
during.
I probably throw this and holds its own above Bridgie up there. Kyle, how do you feel about Frisia? God of Valor.
I wasn't
Orzhov
sure.
Angel.
Okay. That's second spell. Look at the top 3. Yeah, no, that seems pretty reasonable. I don't necessarily know what you run with.
I would probably
but-
run in a black centric deck that. Well, you can just take a. You take a self-build black deck and you throw some white in for added protection and some added reanimation.
Yeah, I don't know. I would vote
You'd vote
99, but I'd vote 99.
I'm going to vote for casual on this one. It definitely is interesting, and but I wouldn't put it as a commander, which means I wouldn't guarantee it in a deck. So hold its own is
In the 99, right? Yeah. Like if it doesn't have enough utility for me to use it as a commander, I'm calling it 99 because I can't imagine building it.
I'm just thinking the utility if
It's
you're playing like a
flying
mono,
like
like a
five.
pseudo mono black deck, and just doing
Right.
using this as your self mill engine. Sure, its second spell matters, but it's a flying 2/4 with lifelink, so you just swing with it every turn, get your 2 life back.
That's the slow mill engine. The problem is you can only trigger it once per turn.
Right.
Like you're getting a fixed slow action out of it.
I would say though it could be fun in like a casual deck because it is in Orzhov color. So, like when I'm looking at this in terms of like the power comparison to like, let's say something like Arnie, I think this could definitely beat out an Arnie deck just because, like if we're looking at it as like the way that Mango is trying to build it, which is like a almost pseudo black deck, and then you have that white in there for the protection, some of the equipment that white has. It could actually be pretty powerful, especially with some good reanimation triggers. I agree that like second spell it kind of slows it down, especially considering like you don't get to like reuse that. But the fact that you get to look at the top 3 cards and then choose which one of them go into the graveyard, that is actually really nice because it gives you that graveyard fix. So it gives you, I'd say like that makes up for the fact that it's only on the second spell. It's because you get to look at the top 3 cards.
Agreed. That's tasty. Well, like, and it's a draw on your second spell too.
Yeah, and it's a draw. So I like that, especially for like Orzhov because there's, I mean like black has good card draw, but like for this I think it's really good. So I'd say it's like casual.
I want to say high casual.
At most.
Yeah. If there's objections, I'm fine for the objections.
At most, that's fine, but not above high casual.
Next one, we waited for you on this one because I don't want to skip this one without you, Carl. Essica, God of the Tree. She's 1 generic and 2 green. She's a god with a vigilance and has tap to add 1 mana of any color. Other legendary creatures you control have vigilance and add 1 mana and tap to add 1 mana of any color. Her backside is amazing. I think so, anyways. It's the Prismatic Bridge for Ruberg, so 1 of each color. Beginning of your upkeep, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature or planeswalker. Put that card onto the field and the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order.
Listen, my Golos deck needs something, to like really pump stuff out, and so I feel like Essica, just for the fact that like Prismatic Bridge exists, I will take that.
Prismatic
I would
Bridge.
definitely put this in a deck for sure.
Dude, you could run this deck.
Honestly,
That thing, it is your mana outlet, and then if it dies, it's also your outlet for creatures. If you're running a 5-color tribal, like Slivers, here's a 3 mana or 5 mana, which is not a big deal in Slivers, for all of your spells, and now you're putting more Slivers onto the battlefield, skipping the cast trigger.
With something like this, I would even run this as a commander.
Right,
You would
that's
have
what I'm saying.
the full Blueberg library. You have very early ramp. Doesn't really matter because you have access to every color, but you have green as well, so you're going to be growing lands and throwing out mana left, right, and center. And then getting into that Rainbow Bridge, you can start to kind of abuse that because it's at the upkeep. So you get something like Sphinx of the Second Sun, you get something that will double up on triggered abilities. Well, now you're tutoring multiple cards per turn.
It's creature or planeswalker, though, so...
It is creature or planeswalker.
Yeah, and you're not tutoring. It's just top order.
Yeah, that
It's
is
almost
true.
like a cascade.
Yeah, it's a cascade, really.
If you run this card, you throw that in there, you put Sphinx of the Second Sun, you guarantee Sphinx of the Second Sun onto the battlefield before your combat phase, which means after your combat phase, you get another upkeep. You trigger this again. You basically guarantee Sphinx will be on there, which is going to double down on this. Then you get another trigger on top of that. You get something that maybe can pull artifacts from the library or anything once it hits the field. I see a lot of use around this, and I'm going to say definitely holds, maybe even competitive.
I mean, yeah, but for it holds its own for sure, because Prismatic Bridge on its own, all I need to do is Worldly Tutor in response to the upkeep trigger, Silence in response to that, tutor God knows what to the battlefield. I don't know, what's the worst thing you can imagine?
Colossal
Rune
Dreadmaw.
Crab.
You people think it's tiny.
Throw a Praetor on top of your
Something
library.
big and
El
scary
Schnorren.
we could have come out. What's
the
a
best
scary thing we could abuse to get out for 5 mana? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, any Eldrazi, any Praetor.
Bosh. Yes, Bosh.
Sheoldred would be good because then you're just pulling stuff all over there. And the best part is it's not a search. You can't shut this down with opponents can't search. It's not an activated ability, it's a trigger
You have
ability.
to stifle the trigger, yeah.
Yeah, that is very true.
Work on trigger.
Stifle will work on this.
No, that's true, because then you don't have to worry about things like Opposition Agent, which has been like a really hot card too. So that's a really good point. I also like, you can definitely tell that they liked this card because they chose to give a Mana Dork Vigilance, which I always like when that happens, because then you can no, I mean it seriously, because then you can just swing with it, and then afterwards on your, let's say it's the opponent's turn, if you need to use a spell, now you have access to mana still, right? You didn't swing and like lose the potential to use that mana.
The best part is it also gives your other legendaries vigilance as well.
Yeah. So all of your legendary creatures all have vigilance now, and then they can add 1 mana of any color. It provides a lot of utility. So I definitely think this could be
And for
a
3
competitive
mana,
deck.
it's totally viable to like turn 1 that. A little hard
and
because it's double green, but
Yeah, and I was gonna say as well, like this on its own is in a competitive deck. Like this could be a competitive deck, but also like you just add this to any Wooburg deck you build, this becomes even more.
Assuming you're running like
Mhm.
taking like advantage of both sides of Eska, that you're running like Legendary Matters as well. I mean, I see the viability without
most
doing
Wooburg
it, but I
decks
mean, if you're
do,
running Legendary
right?
Matters, then it just add a bonus on top.
I mean, most Wooburg decks do because like that's what you want out of a Wooburg deck is like a lot of legendaries, typically.
So we're throwing. I threw her backside on competitive, and then the actual creature herself on holds its own. Does that work out? Does that check out?
That would be.
I want to say both of them could be competitive.
Yeah.
I want to see a competitive deck with that though. That's gonna be tasty.
I'm sure Cal will build it, or theorycraft it, or you can build one.
Finn the Fangbearer. One generic and a
If I build 5 color, it's gonna be slivers.
slivers with this, yeah. Finn the blah 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 blah. Finn the Fangbearer. One generic and a green. He's a 1/3 human warrior with Death Touch, and whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to that player gets 2 poison counters. Daniel, go ahead.
This is something I have my eye on with the current Death Touch and Infect deck that I'm building. This is actually rather interesting too because it's giving poisoning counters, but it does not give poison counters through Poisonous or through Infect, which means that once you run this in a deck, you can triple down on these effects. So let's say you start building your poison deck. You get this on the field. You get an enchantment that gives Poisonous 3 on it, and then you give it Infect. You're going to deal 10 poison counters in a single turn with this thing. And the best part is it gives it to your other creatures. It doesn't even need to be the one dealing damage to be giving out these poison counters.
Right. They just all have to have Death Touch, which is a fun deck to build.
Yes.
All my creatures have Death Touch. That I would do. Just for memes, I would casual. I don't have much else to say because you basically said it all, but that's my vote.
Yeah, I also want to mention, like, if you're running a Death Touch build, if you just add Trample, then you really make people cry, because not only are you killing their creatures, you're also dealing poison damage to an opponent, and that just really ruins somebody's day, and especially considering it's in the mono green color. I'm glad they put it in mono green, because if it was like a multicolor, if it was like split between like that and black, or that and like, let's say, red,
Oh, it'd be disgusting.
people would not be happy.
Basically, it says that 5 creatures deal damage.
Here's
Yeah.
what you're also going to run that in. They may not have that as the commander because Death Touch in green is interesting, but you're going to run that with something like Murark Nightblade, which each creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it gains Death Touch. So now you're going to mix that with an effect that is giving your creatures 1/1 counters, and you are just going to have this gross, disgusting board. You're going to mix that with Poisonous.
Let me tell you exactly what's going to happen. Kevin tosses that in. First, he gets away to give all his creatures Death Touch. However, he does that. Then he tosses this in Tana and kills you with the plant tokens.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's gross.
Give them all Death Touch, 5 at each, which is like not a problem for like turn 5. And he'll literally have 1 through combat by the rules committee's concept of what EDH should be.
And the best
I
part
got all
of
about
this
this
too
later.
is, see how it says whenever? That's a triggered ability, and just like you could with the bridge, you can double down on this ability. You hit someone with Death Touch, you double that whenever, now they get 4 poison counters from one single source of damage through just extra buff. And that's before we've added the poisonous, before we've added the infect. This thing, I'm going to say, definitely holds its own.
It's not a commander, but it does hold its own.
Sounds good.
And
I think it holds.
Out, how is it putting these out? 2 poison counters. So yeah, run Parallel Lives.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Parallel Lives. I forgot about that.
Creatures. So now we're in a scenario where I need 3 creatures with Death Touch. That's not even that hard to have a deck without something else to give it Death Touch.
Oh, the best part is, let's say you spark double this. Well, now you're getting 4 counters. There's just so many ways that you can abuse this mechanic and just make people really hate playing against you.
Agreed. I put it on the top of Hold Its Own right now.
Yeah. And this one's going to definitely have a lot of
Not
fan
as a
favorites,
commander, but definitely holds its own. Definitely a fun card.
Lit. Let's move on to Halvar then, if there's no
All right.
objections.
One more thing I wanna point out about it because I think it's really funny. Home of the Host.
so. Ooh, yes. Helm of the Host would be really good.
Home of the Host on this
Yeah.
creature that now means you're putting on 4 tokens for
4.
creature hitting. You already have 2 creatures of this
Oh my
kind
goodness.
hitting. We need 1 more creature and we've killed a player.
Disgusting.
Yep. That is
Does-
really gross.
Does Parallel Lives double the amount of poison counters?
Yeah. Should. Where's my parallel lives?
You just gave Danny an idea.
Well, I'm already
'cause-
running doubling season, which is Parallel Lives plus.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can absolutely, yeah. If you have 2 parallel lives, it's 4 times. But that's modern and
Right.
standard talking.
The only concern
We don't know
is
over
Parallel Lives is under your control, so I need to double check if
back.
that actually works on poison.
While you're doing that, do
Yeah.
you want to move over to Halvar?
Halvar, God of Battle. He's 2 generic and 2 white. Creatures you control that are enchanted or equipped have double strike. At the beginning of each combat, you may attach target or equipment attached to a creature you control to another target creature you control. Then on the backside, it's Sword of the Realms for 1 generic and a white. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has Vigilance. Whenever it dies, return to its owner's hand. And it has equipped for 1 generic and a white. I think it's great. I said this in a video before.
Right.
I think it's great for like any Voltron deck and stuff like that. Whether it's on its own as a commander, I'm not sure because I think the backside has has a bit more potential too, and I want to be able to easily get that out.
Mm-hmm.
Halvar.
Which card we on?
Halvar.
Sorry.
Halvar. It's definitely good in a Voltron style deck. I think the important thing is the fact that they did both aura and equipment. So the fact that you can do either enchantment or equipment, it gives creatures double strike. That is good because a lot of the times you'll get options where it's either equipment or enchantment, and then you kind of have to build your deck around one or the other. This gives you a little bit more flexibility. This definitely helps out the Voltron deck. I'm personally not a huge fan of Halvar. I'm not a huge fan of mono white commanders, just because I don't think a mono white has a whole lot of support. I definitely think there are really good ones, but not a huge fan of it personally. I think Halvar doesn't quite meet the power bar, so I would say like in the 99, I would include this and a lot of white
In
decks.
certain decks, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of like the equipment enchantment decks. But as a commander, I'm not feeling it. I don't feel it's particularly strong.
You know what would make it a great commander? If its flip side was green and gave you
Yeah.
access to green.
Yeah,
Then it
because
would
of
be
all the
outdoors.
equipment or the enchantments, anyways.
Even if I
Yeah.
feel like it would be more suitable if it was Wooburg, like flavor wise, but yeah, green alone would definitely help us out. But then again, it's back to that thing where they're wanting you to use only one color with these mechanics only. So that's why I wouldn't even throw it. I wouldn't even use it
Yeah.
as a commander. 99, definitely consider it, but I don't think more than that.
Yeah, like all the monocolored gods, they're not trash, but they're clearly designed for not commander.
Exactly.
The next one we have is Harald. I think that's how you say it. King of Skemfire. He's 1 generic, 1 black, and 1 green. Nice Gagori elf because we're getting more support in that. He has Menace. When he enters the battlefield, you look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal an elf, warrior, or Tyvar card, which is that new planeswalker card from among them, and put it in your hand. And you put the rest of them in the bottom of your library in a random order. I can't complain about it. I mean, it's a specific card draw. It has Menace. It's a nice generic Gagori elf for 3 mana. It's a 3/2, But the ETB to specify something into your hand is definitely viable. Whether it's going to be, I don't think it would be a hold its own, a nice little casual elf deck maybe, if you're going Kagori elves.
Casual elf as of the
Yeah.
99. Yeah.
Yeah.
Casual.
I think
That's it.
100% casual, and I don't think there's much else to say about it.
No, it's rather generic. It doesn't do a lot. It's a one-time thing. It's certainly not a
It's
commander.
nice, it's nice flavor wise. I like the style of it and what it does, but I can't see it being
Yeah.
too aggressive.
It's the same thing I've said the whole time. You know, it's they need to print stronger cards.
I'm waiting for the day that they put out that Golgori elf that is just absolutely disgusting, because it's gonna happen. I mean, they're kind of setting it up for it.
5-color Omnath. Yeah, then I'll have to update my Omnath deck. I want a non-white Omnath. Igna, Runa Ice. 3 generic and a blue. When it enters the field, you scry 3. When it dies, you draw 3 cards if 3 or more creatures died this turn. Terrible.
It's terrible.
I don't
Get it out of here. It's
What else?
I-
What else do you
Bottom
say
of the
about
bowl.
it? I mean, the scry 3 is okay.
great. You scry 3 for 4
We're-
mana, and it has to die for me to get the other thing, and other stuff has to die with
Not
it.
worth.
No.
We're in bulk
No,
bin.
thank
Do we put this at the very bottom of the bulk bin?
Very bottom of the boat, yeah.
You
Put
know,
that
I don't even want to put it in bulk bin. I feel like if I got this card, I wouldn't even include it in a deck. I feel like it's really
Bulk
inefficient.
bin
It's
is
so
like
bad.
it goes in the back of your closet. But we can make a new. Let's make a new category.
Pure chaff. Pure.
I mean,
chaff.
this is this is really chaff, because like the fact that it has to die, and then you can draw 3 cards if 3 or more creatures die this turn. That means you
I
have to
wouldn't
have
play
a
this
board
in standard if I had a deck that sacrificed all its creatures every turn, because
Yeah.
it wouldn't be good enough.
It's just not that strong.
Not for an uncommon at 4 mana.
And the other thing too is a human wizard. I feel like they could have been a little bit more generous. They could have included like one keyword like flying, and I would have been like, flying at least is on there. That's something. But no, they weren't. They weren't too generous with Inga.
Also, going back a little bit, unfortunately, Doubling Season does not have as good synergy with Infect. It does not double the amount of counters or -1/1s, as well as with poison counters.
That is good for us to know. Now we know not to run double season in that.
Yep.
Jord, God of Winter. He's 2 generic and a green. Whenever he attacks, untap each snow permanent you control. Countering the ramp staff on the backside, 1 generic, 1 blue, 1 black. You tap it and you can play a target snow permanent card from your graveyard this turn, and if you do, it enters the field taps. Front.
This is something I'm actually excited about, mainly for that front face. Whenever Jordan attacks, untap each snow permanent you control. So your obvious is getting your mana back and running snow lands from the Cold Snap set. But there's a lot of other ones that you can do with this. Things that require snow mana and tap it that are snow permanents. And I feel like this has a lot of potential. And as we get more cold cards in the future, it will have even more. So I'm going to put this definitely at holds its own, and its access to the colors identity, I would have no problem running this as a commander. I actually don't think I'd use the backside too much,
Right.
which is the rhyme staff. It'd be very situational for me to choose that over choosing the front face. But
Yeah. I don't know what the
overall-
outlet is. I don't know what the snow permanent is that you abuse with it.
If for whatever reason, like there's this Tudor bear that they did that's a snow permanent, I believe. You could definitely bring that back on the field, and then I believe it brings more lands from the deck. I did a video that I deleted on because I read the card wrong. It was horrible. But essentially, you can still target this to bring back the Tudor bear onto the field and still do your tutors from the deck. But that's considering
Well, see-
if I run Jorn in the 99 and not as a commander. But I don't.
All right.
One
Well,
of-
just for humor's sake, I'm looking at the most expensive snow permanents, and I'm telling you, 2 of them are lands, and this guy himself is within the top 6. There's
One other way of looking at this too, though, is if you have snow permanents that are creatures on the field, you are effectively giving them vigilance. They're going to tap to attack, and then they're going to attack with Jorn. They're going to untap right away.
Yeah, you could definitely work it with like Ice Fang Kotal or in Frost Fang, and then you're laughing.
Then you have the merit cards like Merit Large Slumber, and then
yeah,
what's it
like
called?
there's stuff you can do.
Dark Depths?
Bring back
Yeah.
Dark Depths
Yep.
consistently.
Run it with Cold Steel Heart. You got mana there. You can ensure that you're getting mana on the same turn that Cold Steel Heart is played.
Yeah.
So is he better or worse than Finn, though?
Yeah, he's not better than Finn. I mean, to me, I
He's
think like
creative, but he's not powerful.
I would say,
and I feel like we got a lot of snow permanent cards, but like from this set, but we haven't gotten a whole lot of snow permanent cards like in general. Like if you look at the actual like list of snow permanent cards, there's not a whole lot. So snow tribal in my books isn't a thing just yet.
I
but
mean,
it
in
will.
most EDH deck or competitive settings, you'll normally be running all snowlands anyways. And just being Sultai alone, you can just use this. You don't have to use this as your main win condition. You can just use this as a outlet to help you ramp things up if you need to. Throwing things in like you already have access to what's that one Simic god that allows you to store mana? It's basically Horizon Stone. Crewfix. So with its color identity, you have access to the Crewfix. You have access to things like Dark Consultation, Thassa's Oracle. All that being blue-black alone is debatably, in my opinion, one of the strongest color combinations you can have for competitive EDH if you're just running dual color.
Right.
So just for that,
I think Sultai is like really, really strong. I think the thing that I'm thinking is that like as a commander, it's not going to be that strong because it is only a 3/3 body for 3, and you really want to use this when you can like attack and then like untap a whole bunch of your lands. Like that's really where the power comes from. It's like, you know, if you have like 8 or 9, like this is turn like 8 or 9, hopefully, and you can untap a whole bunch of your lands with Yorn, you can then pull off like a combo. I think like as like a card in like the 99 for like a Muldrotha deck, that would be really cool, right? Because then you just untap all of your lands if you're running pure snow lands. Then it's really, really strong. But I don't know if I would say like it entirely holds its own. I almost want to say
I would put it in high casual then if that's what we were talking about. Or a low holds its own.
I'm fine for either one.
Any vetoes? Sounds good.
No, but
You pick it.
Carter! Carter? Can someone say that for me, please? Carter! The Doom Scourge.
that sounds pretty.
Hey, Carter, what's up, man?
Carter.
Yeah.
Offense to the Carters.
It's too generic. Black and red. When it ETBs until the next turn, creatures your opponents control attack each combat if each able, and that attack a player other than you if able. Whenever an attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Seems nice to cause a little bit of a panic on the field, but this is really like meta dependent.
Yeah, like no, get it out of here.
You're saying to toss it?
Toss it. Bulk bin. It's not trash. I wouldn't throw it
Bulk
out,
bin.
but bulk bin.
I think this is bulk bin too. I mean, it has to. First of all, it has to ETB, and at 4 cost, if it's the commander, if it's 4 cost, that's already pretty high. And if every time you want it to ETB, like, let's say you're playing it for the command zone, it's gonna eat you. You can get some blink effects like what's it called, Conjurer's Closet. So this way, you know, it ETBs every chance you get. But people will have removal through this, and then your Conjurer's Closet, and then you're gonna cry. So I don't know
here's
if you
my
would want to play
problem.
this at a table.
Yeah, here's my problem with this. This is hilarious, and I would love to play it, which is why it's a terrible card. Because it's like, I'm gonna make you all attack each other, and then a turn's gonna pass, and they're gonna be like, hey, we're gonna beat you up now.
Yeah, you've gained like 8 health, and you've dealt 8
if
damage
that,
to your
because
opponents.
that's only if they start blocking each other.
Yeah.
If you put this down at a 4-player table, I can only see people start to swing at you for putting it down.
After the initial thing where they can't, yeah. Because
Yeah.
you're outright forcing them to 1, swing, and 2... Oh.
Mhm.
Okay, I agree with that then. Next we have Cole the Forge Master for 1 red and 1 white. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, you return that to your hand. Creature tokens you control are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1. This sounds familiar. Didn't we just?
I feel like this would go good in like an Angel Voltron deck or
Absolutely.
something like that. Definitely not going to run this as my commander.
Oh, wait, that's creature tokens.
Non-token creature.
Non-token creature.
Yeah.
No,
So whenever
no,
non-token
for
creatures
the
die,
second
then
part.
Oh yes, yeah. You only get the buff with their tokens. Okay, never mind. This is going bulk bin.
Okay, it depends on something which I have no knowledge on, which is how easy do we make dwarves, and I really don't know the answer to that. Judging on the price of this card, I'm gonna say
I know you
not
can
that
do
well.
mono red dwarves pretty well.
That's great, but you have
Yeah.
to do red white.
This is basically like a mini Halvar.
This is forcing you to do Voltron dwarfs.
With tokens.
I wouldn't say necessarily like Voltron dwarves. I definitely think like you could do this in, let's say if you had Gazella, that's a fan favorite amongst our table, and you just built a whole bunch of equipment on Gazella. Now you don't have to put Gazella in the command zone. Gazella can just go back to your hand. With,
I mean,
with
that's
Wool on the
great, but
But that's only if it dies. If it
Yeah.
gets exiled or
it
anything
would
like
have
that,
to die first. And with
Yeah,
all the
of
command,
course.
like, it's effectively accomplishing a runaround version of Lightning Greaves.
Of
And-
course,
and
but
the second thing
Mhm.
is that if we are typically, at least with the tables that I played with, is if you have a choice to send your commander back to your hand, you're gonna choose to go bring it to the command zone instead, because there's so much discard and like just get rid of your hand and reshuffle your hand in
Right.
that you're pretty much.
I mean, even if you're not, like, it's great to avoid the commander tax, but even as a 99, it's like, okay, he's avoiding the commander tax. But it has to die.
It must
first of all.
perish.
So
Right.
like half the removal can just circumvent this card's effect. I feel like at best it's a cat and mouse game.
No, and the reason I'm mentioning this is only because I don't think this is anywhere close to competitive, and I also don't think this is like the card that's going to solve Boros, because I think Boros has a lot of issues that need to be resolved. But I think this is a card that is a step in the right direction for what Boros needs, and that's like Boros needs a bit more protection, in my opinion.
I feel
And
like
that's funny to say because it's white is included in there, but I think it needs a little bit more protection, and I think it also needs options. The fact that like you can put this on the field and you're buffing your creatures.
Don't forget,
and
red
two,
has counter
turning
spells now.
is good.
Because
Yeah, that's
the
true.
thing.
if this was black-white instead of red-white, I would say it's a lot more viable. But with no access to black, there's a lot of difficulty.
I disagree. I feel it's
No.
better in red. Red's gonna make a whole bunch of tokens, because even in a goblin deck or something, I can use it. But they have to be enchanted or equipped. It's such a task. I don't
mean,
want to
Skull
bother
Clamp.
with that. Like, how many tokens do you have that are enchanted or equipped ever?
I mean, like for the non-token side, you
Like
can
one or
do
two?
Skull Clamp on that.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, for the non-token,
Some-
it does. It's a great thing for Skull Clamp, but do I want to run a single creature for a? Skull
You
Clamp
could run
effect
that
lets
zero
me
drop
bounce
Kobold
it?
or Ornithopter with Skull Clamp with this, and just continuously bring it back to the board,
Right.
equip it, and then draw your whole deck. Assuming that drawing your whole deck means something in white.
I think this is definitely. I think
Yeah.
what we're getting at here is that this is going to be bulk bin for now, but I think this is like something where it can in the future, with the right support, be included in a 99. But it's never.
I
Gonna
don't know.
be
I'm
like
kind of
command
turned on
level.
by the Skull Clamp zero drop combo that this has.
I'm curious. There's no rulings yet. I'm curious on if it hits. I'm curious if it's a replacement effect. It doesn't appear to be, but
Like, can you win by drawing? I mean, that's a fantastic draw outlet if you have a bunch of zero drops.
yeah, because that would work in theory, but I don't think that's supposed to work.
That's exactly how it would work though, because it returns it to the owner's hands.
That's actually true. You could potentially draw.
You draw your whole
out
deck if
hand,
you have
but,
Ornithop
like, you could
there
draw
and
your deck, but
Skullclamp.
I don't know what.
Or
Right,
some
yeah.
other thing.
But I don't know what like the win
Skull
con.
Clamp, you take 2 cards.
Yeah, so you draw 2 cards over and
I
over
don't
again,
know what the
having
win
your
con
whole
would
deck.
be in Boros for that.
Yeah, if you have your whole deck, you should be able to out it. But I'm trying to think how you do that in red-white
You still
necessarily.
need the mana to equip.
It's a very
but yeah.
odd thing to do. I mean, you could try and jerk it with Skull Clamp, but then you're just saying the entirety of my deck is Skull Clamp, and I still.
I feel like
Okay.
it's so situational that it's not enough to really pull it from bulk bin for me. Because I feel like there's other cards that have that same effect, where it's just if it's equipped, it'll go to your hand instead.
Let's do a quick Scryfall search, actually.
It doesn't. There's no rulings because it's not.
I know,
out
but
yet.
return if it's. Oh, this is something I have to
Dies
look
and
into
return to
further
hand.
because I mean I like the infinite skull clamp idea. Okay, fine. We'll put it
I think that's.
we'll
I
put
think
it
that's how
we'll
you
put
abuse
it
this.
in bulk bin.
How you'd abuse it, I just don't think it works well enough. It's too easy.
We'll
to
put
get
it
rid
in
of
bulk
that.
bin for now. But I'm still gonna look into that further because that sounds tasty to me. And I mean, like realistically, if you don't need to, if you don't build your deck around this, and you just have this as a tool to win, and not like an actual. I don't know. Something we'll have to look into more.
But it's not a great tool. It relies on something else being the engine. And Ornithopter exists as a draw engine, but not a kill engine. So then you need something to pass that. So you probably like do Seething Song and a bunch of red mana spells. And then you probably like Aggravated Assault and do some kind of infinite combat thing once you draw your deck. But it's very heavy red. You could play stacks on the side with.
I'm
white
getting
to try
excited
and hold
about
them.
Cole, so I'll put that in the and I'll put it in bulk bin for now. But I'll probably look into that a bit more.
Sure, if you can make a deck that can do anything,
Sounds good, man.
then we'll.
I
move
think.
it.
I think I agree. Like I think Cole. I'm agreeing with you, Mango. Let's just say that.
I'll
much. I'm
leave it
agreeing
in
with you on
bulk
the
bin
Cole.
for
I
now,
have some
but
interest.
I'll if I come back with a deck with this, then we'll have a chat. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah, a deck that I can win.
All right, let's go.
Kolvori, God of Kinship, for 2 generic and 2 green. As long as there are 3 or more legendary creatures, it gets +4/+2 and has vigilance. So it basically becomes a 6/6 of Vig. For 1 generic and a green, you can look at the top 6 cards of your library, reveal a legendary card. Put that in. You put that into your hand, the rest in the bottom of your library. And then Ringheart Crest for 1 generic and a green. You choose a creature type, and you can tap it to add green, and you can spend this mana only on a creature type of the chosen type or a legendary creature spell.
Okay. Backside, absolute trash.
Trash, like backside thrown out. Like
Just I'd throw it out too.
Oh,
What? Mono green legendary creatures and or just more legendary
or chosen
creatures.
creature type as well.
I mean, yes, if you're doing legendary creature spam, great. That's got a million options already. But hey,
Mhm.
we can add another. It's included in the 99 if I'm doing a legendary creature deck, and otherwise I never use it.
Exactly my thought process. This is kind of like a bulk, but nearing the point where you actually
Okay.
almost want to throw it out. The backside is absolute trash, but the front side has some utility, but there's still even better options in this.
Yeah, because it only adds green. Like on its own, it's worthless. It's
Yeah.
only good in like a 5-color legendary deck.
Exactly.
And then
I agree.
and it's only put it into your hand.
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't
don't think
even,
you'll see much of this card anyways.
It's
Yeah, it doesn't put it onto the field or any of that sort of stuff.
like if competitive is ranked on a speed of 1 to 5, this is like a 3 on its best day.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not there. It's okay and you could use it, but there are many other things you should be using first.
Mm-hmm. Especially for its mana cost. Like 4 is expensive.
4 and
Okay,
then 2
like-
for the effect.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's 6 mana you have to spend on one turn,
And great,
which is
she's strong if
way
you
too
control a
strong.
bunch of other creatures, but
Mhm.
he's-
Agreed.
Yeah.
So bottom of the bulk bin and then the backside trash.
Bottom
Like,
of
I
the bulk
mean-
bin. Backside
Yeah.
is trash.
Yeah.
I mean, you're better off just painting like the back of the commander card, just like anything else.
Like, why would you ever pull out that artifact.
Well, again, any of these monocolored gods, they're all. You should play this monocolored god in standard and not use these in any other format. Period.
True.
The exception is. Oh wait, no. Is there even a decent god? Okay, yeah, we're
Okay,
gonna
we'll
get there.
We'll get
There's
there.
Coma.
one or two.
The Cosmos Serpent. He is a 3 generic.
Now we get to.
He's 3 generic, 2 green and 2 blue. He's a really big 6/6 noodle. He can't be countered. Beginning of each upkeep, you create a 3/3 blue serpent named Coma's Coil. You can sacrifice another serpent, which would probably be one of the coil. Tap target permanents. Its activated abilities can't be activated this turn. Or Coma gains indestructible until end of turn.
So there's a couple things I like about this card, and there's a couple things I don't like about this card. First off, that is a lot of mana for a 6/6, but it also can't be countered, and it is a
And it's an engine.
Now, the thing I really like about that is that first sacrifice ability. Tap a target permanent and its activated abilities can't be activated. Now, that will be shutting down infinite mana sources, but the counter to that is by the time someone has an infinite mana source, you're probably not going to have this thing on the field, even if it's your commander.
I don't know about that.
It's a 7 cost.
Let me shoot you a proposal. I'm running blue green here.
Mhm.
I'm running. I got lucky enough to open with the blue ley line, so all
Yep.
my stuff has flash, and I go hard into the token duplication because you know what the key thing is here. Our boy does not tap.
That's true.
We can use that, sacrifice a serpent, and it can be any serpent. I would not be against running tribal serpents, depending on what that consisted of, with a side of control from the blue.
Is
Maybe
tribal
some light
serpent
stacks.
tribal though? I don't know
I
a lot
have-
of serpent cards.
I have no idea. Let me
Literally
strive
in the
on it.
past 2 sets, both in Commander Legends and then in Zendikar Rising, there have been legendary creature
There are
serpents.
40 serpents.
Yeah, and both of them were blue-green. The first one was Verizal, the split current from Zendikar Rising, which is just the kicker commander.
Dude, Commander
Um,
Legends, ISE, play an additional land, and when a
Exactly.
land ETBs, draw a
Of those-
card. We got
Yeah,
some
that's the
outlet
other one.
in here.
Yeah.
Of those
So
40
you get that
serpents, how many match the color scheme?
Almost all of them.
There's
Almost
there's
maybe
2 that don't that have black in it.
7 or 8 that
3.
Okay.
4. There's 4 that don't
don't.
fit.
Roughly.
Yeah, so I think this could actually be pretty good, especially because like Cal is saying, like we're not tapping here, which is really good for a big 6/6 body. It is an expensive commander, 100% it is. Like this is really costly, but I think it could be good.
I think in order to get it to work, you need something like Geode Golem or cost reduction. Maybe running like a Sapphire Emerald, Sapphire Medallion.
I'm looking for some kind of jank serpent to present that makes this funny, but I can't find one.
I think Aisi is a really good example.
Aisi's great, but we need more than that to make a deck out of it.
Yeah, that's true. But it is in blue and green, which
Yeah.
it's ramp, and then you have counter spells, and then
But
you
I,
have a lot of
I want a
protection and
lot of
that.
serpents, mainly for his ability. I want to be able to shut down, because that's basically in response. You can't activate your ability.
Is there ways in
Right.
blue that you can just generate more serpent tokens? Like, can I do something where it's like a card that just copies a card and produces X amount of tokens extra?
No, you're looking for an effect called Populate, which is in green primarily.
Which is fine, yeah. I'm just wondering what else there was in the way of serpents specifically, and there's just not that much.
I wonder, if you run some serpent and populate in there, if it could work really well.
I suppose you could also double down on the triggered ability for it to create a little bit faster. I'm not saying it's a bad card, just
It
that
needs
I
some
see him-
kind of.
I throw it in casual.
Yep.
'Cause
I would throw it
Yeah.
in casual as well.
Well, keep in mind, it says at the beginning of each upkeep, which means, if there's a 4-player game,
yeah,
that means
okay,
there's
no,
4
that's
serpents
good.
that are
I did
created.
not realize.
Oh, hello. Never mind. That's a game changer.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then the other thing, too, is there's
alright,
also,
hold its own.
what was that Sphinx card?
Yeah, hold
What's that
its
Sphinx
own.
card?
Hold
Sphinx
its own.
Second Son.
Because
Yeah.
if it's each
Thanks,
upkeep
that's-
and I have a doubling season or anything else, this gets out of control in a single
Yeah.
rotation.
Yeah,
Like
this
I don't
gets
care
really
if he's
big,
7 mana.
really
If he
quick.
stays out and he can't be countered, So if he
Mm-hmm.
stays out, and like
Yeah, that's true.
he's 7 mana. I already have Lightning Greaves on the board some way, somehow.
Yeah, and it cannot be countered. So I like the fact
So,
that like
they've
literally
got, like,
you
a
have built-in
tiny
protection
window
for
of
this commander,
removal.
and it will just grow your board very wide.
And it shuts down any creature
What are we doing?
abilities.
High holds
That
its
is
own?
true.
Above
Holds its own.
Finn? Sure.
Yeah, I'd say so. Mainly because that triggered ability is on everyone's upkeep.
Let's talk.
Oh, did you hear anything I said, or
You
did
got
I
gigs.
like gick?
You got gicked.
Magda, Brazen Outlaw. 1 generic and a red. Other dwarves you control get +1/+0. Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, you create a treasure token. You sacrifice 5 treasures. You can search your library for an artifact or dragon card.
Okay, I can't believe we're wasting our time with this. It's competitive.
Yeah, that's
It's
competitive.
competitive because I've seen it run in a competitive deck.
Okay, so
and
let's
it's
say
hurt.
why so people know.
Yes. I'll let you do that.
No,
I'm
because
still
I
crying in the
no.
corner from
Like,
shame.
can you bring Kevin in the chat for a second so he can explain it, or like, do you want to do it? Because this pains me to talk about.
Man, I can't explain his
Well,
deck.
Okay,
His deck.
Magda.
I
When you
built
got
decks
this
like
deck-
him, I'd be competent.
When you got this deck, you're going to be creating treasure tokens. Like, you're not just going to have this as your only source. This is just going to be one of the best things that revolve around your treasure tokens. You're going to abuse that mechanic. You're not going to get mana out of that. You're going to get artifacts. Now, or dragons, alternatively. You can get some heavy-hitting artifacts. Bring them right into
Like I
the
said,
field
flat
right
lass.
away. Or heavy-hitting dragons right into the field right away. It's just beautiful because the other thing is you don't have to tap it to sacrifice it. You don't have to specify it once per turn, and it doesn't even specify that you need to do it on your turn either. It's at any point in the time, so long as you have more than 5, you are just guaranteed to pull something amazing from your deck. You're going to be running things like, I believe it's called Ray Precious Dragon, the dragon that will generate treasure tokens on attack or entry. You're going to be running, I want to say, Dockside Extortionist in there.
Absolutely. What's
you're-
the combo?
There's some wheel tower where he taps 2 artifacts. Clock of Omens.
Clock of
that's what
Omens.
it is.
It's Clock of Omens.
He
yeah.
taps 2 to untap a
So-
target permanent, I believe. Clock of
Yeah.
Omens.
And then he can produce infinite.
You create.
I forgot what else he does it with. He needs Clock of Omens and something else.
Solution? Oh no, that's blue. Never mind.
So someone would have to ask him, but yeah, basically that, and he creates an infinite mana loop. At which point, infinite tutor any artifact in my deck.
Not
At
any.
which point,
All.
I don't know if you can't win.
All.
Yeah, all.
To bring your whole deck to the board and just either deal damage
Exactly.
or. I don't know what the other win con is for that.
And because red has a counter spell to fall back on now for like a worst case scenario, it's at least semi-viable. Well, it's just more viable.
Kevin has
mono
beaten me
deck
with
as it
Magda in
was, but
3 turns and 5 turns without drawing a land card. I'm just gonna say that.
yeah, right.
I don't want to talk anymore about it because I'm still hurt
Yeah.
on it.
He beat us
that's
with our own life meters.
fantastic.
Maja, Guard Protector. 2 generic, 1 green, 2 white. It's a human warrior. Other creatures get +1/+1. Whenever a land ETBs, you make a 1/1 human warrior creature token.
This card is very complementary to Landfall, and would go good in a deck such as Omnath or something that you are creating a lot of little smaller tokens with something like Shoot
Yep.
Swarm. But I wouldn't run this as my commander. I'm not sold on it completely, especially with it being 5 CMC. I would definitely run this in a Landfall deck, just not as the primary.
Drop Persian back.
Oh, you got DC'd?
You got DC'd,
That hope.
I assume.
Thank you.
Are you guys dragging back in? You guys are
I dragged him back in.
coaches? No!
You good?
Oh yeah, I do. I made you guys hobgoblins. I forgot. Yeah, I wouldn't throw this in my. Wouldn't throw this in my Omnath deck. It's 5 mana. Normally, if I have something for
What,
5
Pasha?
mana in
Yeah,
my
it's-
Omnath deck, it's gonna control the board, or it's gonna be the next step.
It's expensive, and you've got other cards that do the same
Yeah.
thing better. It's a standard card, and I mean, quite frankly, it's an uncommon. That's what most of the uncommons we've looked at tonight have been. It's like, well, this is meant for standard. It's never going to hold its own outside of a sealed
Except for maybe Cole
appearance,
with that infinite combo.
because there's. Yes, yeah, like, well, again, that's different, right? That's if you've got a card that can do an infinite combo, that's at least some potential. This is giving creatures +1/+1, and yeah, you create tokens at what's probably a slower pace, and again, you've got better ways to do it in green.
I don't know. This is a card that, like, if I pull it from a pack, I'd be like, here, throw it out for me. Because at that point,
I mean,
yeah.
it's bulk. If you were building my first commander and you needed a bunch of simple cards that buff like your creature's power, and you want to go Big Timmy, you know, the giant Tacosaurus Rex, you want the 8/8s,
Yeah.
you know, with trample, then yes, it's an okay card for that, and I would even use it if we were playing a truly casual thing.
but we ain't.
Honestly, again, it's something I would like to do. I'd like to like throw all the commanders like this from a set and shuffle them in a pile.
Like a
We
cube.
all pull one, and then we go
Oh, yeah,
off
that'd
for
be so
30
much fun.
minutes
We
to
could do
go
that.
build a deck with it, but with a random commander every time.
Yeah. We should do that on tabletop one
Unfortunately,
day.
I don't feel like Maya again. Yeah.
Yeah, like we could for sure just bring in a deck that's a pile of commanders, shuffle it, everyone takes a card. We go to build phase,
Yeah. Yeah.
That could be a lot of fun.
set it up. You're the
Yeah.
channel guy,
We'll set up some. We'll look into that more. Stop distracting me. But yeah, no, that sounds great. Like a great idea, actually. Like a pseudo cube, like a freeform pseudo cube. Next one. More Yets of the Frost. 2 generic, 1 green, 2 blue. Has Changeling. Enters the battlefield as a copy of a perm, except as legendary.
And snow in addition to its
So
other
which
types.
means, doesn't that just pop something else off the board?
No, so what happens is when you have it enter the battlefield, it enters as a copy of a permanent you control, except it's legendary and snow and additional to its other types. And if it's a creature, it enters with 2 additional +1/+1 counters on
Right.
it and has Changeling. So you can copy, let's say, a non-legendary permanent. You now make it you now create it as Morite, or Morite copies that and becomes legendary and snow. If it's already a
prevents
legendary
you
creature, the
from-
legendary creature roll would destroy it.
This
It's
is
a
something
restriction
that
to prevent the uncommon from going haywire because it's an uncommon.
this is something that just gets outclassed by a lot of things, like Spark Double, like Sakashima, and
It's 5 mana and it's a weird color combination.
yeah, it's nice that it'll kind of gives it a snow permanent, which will have. If I was running Jorn, I might include that in the 99, but that CMC really deters me from it as well.
Completely, especially considering like just like you said, Sakashima is a really good commander. It has partner. It's in mono blue, but it has partner, and it's got a lower mana cost, and it breaks the legendary.
Yeah,
rule.
rather rock
And
Sakashima.
altogether, like if I'm looking at that, it's a
And
weaker.
Sakashima.
Yeah, it's just a weaker Sakashima to me.
Because with this, the cards, if you're going to pay 5 CMC for a duplicate of something, you're going to be duplicating something worth its value. And the fact that it can't break the legendary rule really kind of puts it towards the bottom of the barrel when you compare it to things that even like Spark Double. The 1/1 counters are a nice touch to it, so maybe there's some synergy there, but definitely not worth the mana cost.
Agreed. Any objections?
Nah, no objections. Here.
Narfi, Betrayer King. 3 generic, 1 blue, 1 black, another 5 mana legendary. It's a legendary snow creature, zombie wizard. I like the flavor. Other snow and zombie creatures you control get +1/+1. You can pay 3 snow mana to return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped.
I think this to me is bulk bin, but you can maybe put it in a deck of like the Scarab God, because like to me this looks like it's a zombie or snow type commander, right? And I would rather put it in something like a zombie deck and then just run Scarab. Like for example, you just run Scarab God with Narfi in it. It will buff your zombies, which
I
is
think
really
it
nice,
has.
but otherwise, I don't.
I
really
think it
see
has
that being
potential to be like a
So-
super casual deck.
So
Mhm.
this as your commander, I can see a huge risk with this. So let's say you're trying to get that snow mana so you can keep on returning and dodging that commander cost. Once your commander is in your graveyard, I don't believe that you can replace that graveyard to exile if it gets targeted by something that removes a graveyard.
Mhm.
Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
You can only
I mean, if
replace
you
action for it going to the graveyard, and if you're dictating to the graveyard, you put a massive target on your back. And bringing a black colored deck to a table, you know that, especially if you're
Like
on a familiar
Dimir deck.
table. Yeah.
Dimir, not just black. It's minimum Dimir.
Yeah, people are going to be running graveyard removal if you're playing with a familiar table. And if you're not playing with a familiar table, why are you not running at least one count of graveyard removal?
The other thing too is like you always like if you wanted to like play around that graveyard hate, you have to keep 3 mana floating just for Narfi, which I never like doing necessarily. Like I don't like the idea of, oh, I have to reserve this mana just purely for this commander to come back. Like that doesn't seem to me that mana efficient. If each turn that it dies, you have to now float the 3 mana to potentially bring it back. That doesn't
He
seem
says
right.
this, but I played a game where Lavinia got to 15 mana.
That is true.
So I'm sticking a Frozen Boy
She never stayed.
at top of bulk bin, just underneath Cole. Is that accurate? Did I hear that wrong?
Yeah. No, I think that's fair.
Speaking of legendary blue creatures, like Sakashima, that are fantastic.
That aren't.
That you don't think?
Good
Okay,
enough.
well, Orvar, the all form for 3 generic and a blue, is a legendary shapeshifter with changeling. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if it targets one or more permanents you control, you create a copy. You create a token that's a copy of one of those permanents. When a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard that card, just discard this card, you create a token that's a copy of target permanent.
So I can see some fun things that you can do with this one. Let's say you're running this as your commander in a mono blue. You have a whole bunch of smaller buffs for maybe 1 or 2 blue mana. They're just giving you plus
What buffs
1
do you have,
health.
though? That's
or
what I'm
anything
trying
like
to
that.
think of.
I'm
So
thinking
they need to
instant
target your
actually.
creatures.
Yeah.
So, like,
He's
still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Okay.
I can hear you.
So, here's my issue. I think about building this as a mono blue command, and I think it has its place. Let me be clear. I think it has its place
for
in
sure.
the 99 of certain decks that are good
Crooked
with mass
thumbs.
duplication. But mono blue, I don't think it works. I'm trying to think where I balance my cheap cards that target creatures I control, and the creatures I control being good enough that duplicating them works.
By the way, it has to be an instant or sorcery. That's the other thing you have to keep in
Yeah,
mind, right?
like,
It can't be like an
it's-
enchantment, which would be really nice.
Which would be really nice and like really nice, but
Yeah, extremely.
instant sorcery that target my creatures, blue's more about doing stuff for the player. This is like the one scenario I want it to be Azorius, and there's no white
I
to
mean,
be
there's
found.
dramatic reversal and Isochron.
Or red.
That's not going to target anything, though. That's each.
Is that each?
Nope, that doesn't work. That
Um,
doesn't target
So
anything.
what you can do is you can use stuff like Befuddle.
No.
to target creatures.
It's not target, it's each.
So you can use stuff like
Unless it's
Veil
this
of Sec-
whatever.
The arcane spells are nice because they come, like, for example, target creature is unblockable. Now, you're not really
No,
going to
that
be using
may
it to be
actually work.
unblockable, but you're going to be using it for the fact that it's a 2 CMC spell and it targets creature, triggering that. You're going to use things like,
Target.
oh, that's don't control. My apologies.
Yeah, that's the problem with it, right?
Yeah, or you can do something like Stern Dismissal or targets that return to your hand, like Unsummon. You're going to unsummon a creature, you're going to copy of that, and then you can cast that creature again and get 2 on the field. Maybe if you have an ETB,
Great.
that would trigger
That's super
nicely.
inefficient. to duplicate my creature, I had to cast him 2 times anyway.
Yes.
Unsummoned's bad example, but otherwise, yes, I'm just trying to think of better ones.
But when you start building things around there, what you can start doing is you can start basically getting a lot of triggers out for 2 or 3 mana, getting that ability, creating those copies, and then doubling down on effects that those creatures may have.
One thing that I think is really interesting for Orvar, I don't think necessarily for like a commander, but as in the 99, first of all, I like Changeling. Like on most things, like if I get Changeling, that's great. It can fit in a lot of things. But if I'm playing this in like either an Azorius deck or let's say like a Simic deck, I could see this doing like really funny, really cool things, like Colossiform on something, and then you just create like 2 Colossiforms on something, like in a Simic deck. That just seems ridiculous.
Another good one, Defy Gravity. That's a 1-cost blue spell that gives your creature flying, and it also has Flashback for 1. So that again plays into the synergy, and I see potential for a nice deck around this.
To me, it just seems very, very interesting, and I want to take the time to see what sort of instants and sorcery spells blue has that can really buff up my permanents, and see if this could be something that could be a commander on its own. I don't know right off the bat if there is, but I think like a lot of the theme we're saying is like it's not gonna be as strong as Sakashima, but like if I was to include this in a Sakashima deck with something else, like this could be a lot of fun. I just like how tasty this is.
I would probably throw this into my thumbs deck,
Right.
My Quark Soccer deck. As soon as I get my hands on this, I'll throw it in my
your
Soccer.
Because once you introduce Sakashima, you can make a trigger off himself, and then you can open up a whole other can of worms.
Oh, wait. So if you put this, so if you make Sakashima Orvar, right, and you target the original Orvar, what would happen here? Would this create like a...
It's
No,
not a
because
spell,
the legend rule doesn't apply to you.
No, but so here's the thing, right? Let's say... No, I know. So, no, just wait. Let me explain something first, really quick. So let's say you have Orvar, you play Sakashima, Sakashima comes in as Orvar. Okay, now I take another spell, I don't know, Colossify. I put Colossify on one Orvar, okay? So it targets the first Orvar. Then what happens is that I make a token that's a copy of it, and then I create... and then I can actually create like a copy of that, right? And then the second Orvar triggers.
You make another Orvar. Every time you buff an Ovar, you make another Ovar, but you get 2 triggers because you have 2 Ovars, so you make 2, and then you make 4.
But then I make another one.
Replicating token.
Right. So then I have a token. So then I would just have infinite Orvars, right?
Yeah, you can also do that with, and I know I keep on bringing it up a lot, but Spark Double, because the Spark Double token doesn't break legendary. No, yes. It would go around it. So you keep on making
only good
Spark
for
Double tokens. Sorry?
No, but if
because I guess if it would make 1 and then it would make 2. You'd have to do another step.
You'd have to
because
continuously
one
target
of the 2 would
token.
fizzle on the second one, and you'd be left with 3. But then the 3 triggers, you'd get 2.
Well, no, you would just create a copy of whatever is targeted. So Orvar would.
Oh yeah, so you just target the second one. You get 2 triggers. Yep, you're good.
But you're seeing what I'm saying though, is that like you basically create infinite Orvars, right? And then they're just massive, and then you just swing in to win, which could be funny.
I mean, you have a turn delay, but
true.
I feel though
it's a 1-turn delay
because you're not given blue and you're not given blue haste.
I feel like if you're building around that strategy though, you would have a way to win without swinging.
Actually, hold on. What if you did do that? What if you just did? So you did Orvar is on the field. You have Sakashima, and then you just Sakashima targeting Orvar. Okay, now you just give haste to one of them. Now you have copies with haste. Now you have a whole bunch of 3/3s with haste. You have infinite 3/3s with haste.
In blue.
Not in mono blue. You'd have to include this in the 99 as a win con.
No, because I wouldn't have the equipment.
Is there a blue card that has haste? If there is a blue card that has haste, I'm doing this deck. I want to see if this is a thing.
I mean, yeah, but then you still have to get Sakashima out and something else. Like, people are going to see the combo coming.
Of course, but like, if, let's say, you needed to pull off a cheeky combo, this could be something that you could include in the 99 as a cheeky combo. Which I think is just tasty. And then, like, this just now makes me excited for other things.
It would be interesting to throw this in Brutaclad if I swapped up some of the stuff more so that there was more things that targeted my stuff. I don't know how I make that work, but...
You could do Reigns of Power. No, actually, that doesn't target. Never mind.
We also have red, though.
Yeah, you'd have to go into red for that.
Right, and we're already in red.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Raidane, God of the Worthy, for 2 generic and a white. It's a god with flying vigilance, no lands into the field taps. Non-creature spells your opponents control with converted mana cost 4 or greater cost 2 more to cast. His backside is 3 generic and a white for Valkmira, Protector Shield. For a source and opponent controls would deal damage to you or a permanent you control, prevent 1 of that damage. Whenever you or another permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless that controller pays 1. Yeah, fantastic and casual. Like most
Amazing
competitive decks
casual,
will have
actually.
mainly snowlands in there anyways.
Mhm.
The stacks effects of both sides are nice. I throw it in low casual. I don't know what else to really say about it.
I feel like
I
in
agree.
casual deck,
Moderate
this would
casual,
basically
it's fine.
be a race to get it out, because the second that you get
it's
it
a
out,
decent angel. Yeah, it's
that 2 greater to
stalls
cast
everyone.
is going to stall your opponent's commanders. And by that point in time, you got a flying vigilance, you got a couple hits, and you probably have something that's going to be buffing it as well. It's not good, but it's not bad either. I'd say
Yeah,
casual.
like if I was running an angel deck, it goes in the angel deck.
For the mana cost, though, first of all, you're having flying and vigilance for 3 mana. That's pretty good, like on the mana cost alone. And then plus the stacks effect is really nice.
Yeah.
And it's in mono white. I mean, mono white isn't the best, but like for stacks effects, if you're building a purely stacks deck, I agree. This is a solid commander pick, or
I'd
like a solid
probably-
casual pick.
I'd probably never play the artifact side of this card, just for the simple cost that it's more expensive than the main one, and it doesn't stall as hard. Though the counter is rather nice, but it's really specific. When it's on the field, people aren't really going to be countering your things unless they're ready to pay that 1 mana to begin with, because it's not like you can flash this in.
Agreed. So I put her in the front side in casual and the back side in both middle bulk bin. Any objections? Fantastic.
No objection here.
Sarulf the Realm Eater. He's 1 generic black and green.
He's fun. I kind of want to throw
Completely.
together. a casual deck.
Whenever.
I
What do
have
you
the
guys
same
want to leave
thought.
this off then? No? Okay, I was just asking if you wanted to read the card. Either way, whenever a permanent an opponent controls is put in a graveyard from the battlefield, you put +1/+1 counter on Realm Eater. At the beginning of your upkeep, if he has 1 or more +1/+1 counters on him, you may remove all of them. If you do, exile each other non-land permanent with converted mana cost less or equal to the number of counters removed this way.
So I'm excited for this card because I feel like things that bounce between the graveyard for black decks, if this card exists on the field, you're going to stop almost any win condition with something like that. You're going to stop Phyrexian Altar win conditions because you're just going to put those counters on it, and then you can basically pop the
Completely
field at
pops
instant speed.
like token decks.
Yes, 100%. It's anti-token. It is just anti-dredge to a degree, and
I put him in casual.
it's definitely going in one of my current decks as well. I'm excited to get my hands on this one.
Put a Sire Conrad, slap Sire Conrad on the top of Sarulf, you're making value out of it. Not only are opponents losing 1 health for every creature that enters exit the battlefield and goes into the graveyard, but now you're getting a +1/+1 on Sarulf. So I
Who's
like it,
commander,
and in Golgari, it's really solid.
potentially, and yeah.
I'd have no objections to running this as a commander either. I would put this
Sounds
under
good.
holds its own.
Low or high?
Holds its own.
Holds its own.
High.
Middle high.
Middle ground, yeah. Like I would say
Above or
between-
below Finn?
Probably below
Sure.
Finn.
Below.
Sigrid.
Probably.
Oh,
Actually,
okay.
yeah, below Finn.
Sigrid God Favored. 1 generic and 2 white. Flash, first strike, protection from god creatures. When it enters the battlefield, exile 1 attacking or blocking creature until Sigrid leaves the field. It's a banishment priest with flash, but more specific. I'd rather run
So
banishing priest over this than the 99 as a commander. I mean, I get the appeal of exiling something on Flash. But I mean, if this is your commander, people are
The
going to see it.
The exile on Flash's main appeal is that when you see it on an enchantment such as Cast Out, is you can't really remove those as easy. It's a lot harder to remove an enchantment than it is for a creature. So now that you got it on a creature, it's really simple. You can just do some form of combat damage to it. It can be targeted and just reduce its health to make it leave. It really kind of takes away that exiling effect. And the protection from God seems like it was kind of just made for this set, for its standard format. I don't see much use of it outside of this set.
If you think about it, if you're flashing this in just as a blocker, it takes care of potentially two creatures that are attacking.
And that's nice, but those creatures aren't permanently gone.
One of them is.
The second that it leaves the battlefield, that creature's back.
One of them is permanently gone. The other one, if you boost Sigrid, or if you're swinging against something that's like a 1/1 or a 2/2, sure, Sigrid dies with it, but that's still preventing two bodies.
But see, the thing is, though, is that unless you're blocking a 1/1, that's not going to be effective. Because if you're blocking a 2/2, Sigurd's going to die. Yes, you stopped them for that turn, but Sigurd's going to die that turn, which means that attacker is right back on the battlefield. Now he's going to be untapped, albeit with Summoning Sickness. But you're also spending 2 full white mana of the same color, and the generic to do so. And I feel like there's a lot better responses.
Oh, for sure. I know there's a lot better responses, but I mean, I'm still going to go back to the fact that you're removing 2 bodies worth of damage. Sure, the person gets it back the next turn, but preventing that potentially, I mean, like, what if someone's swinging at you with, I don't know, something big and beefy? Say Sheoldred is coming at you, and you have another non-trample black creature coming in. Removing 2 bodies from the field, even for just a turn, and which means that Sheoldred doesn't trigger at the beginning of that upkeep to where you're having to sacrifice something. It's nice. I'm not saying throw it as a commander, but just including it in the 99, because I think revealing it as a commander just throws off the whole game plan as it is. But I don't even know like how you build aggressively around Sigrid. I throw it in like low end in a 99.
I would vote for high end
of the bulk bin
on that one.
I'm gonna put it.
I'll
put it below Cole, because I'm not. I don't think I'll put anything above Cole, because I'm particular to him.
I get you.
Zavella the Ice Shaper, for 1 generic, a red and a green, is a legendary snow creature that's a troll. For a 3 generic, you can tap it, create a snow artifact named Icy Manolith that you can tap to add 1 mana of any color. This doesn't get sacrificed, it's not a treasure token you're making. But then for a 6 generic, a red and a green, you can look at the top 4 cards and cast a spell from among them without paying the mana cost. And you put the rest at the bottom of the library.
Okay.
It's terrible.
I'm glad they made this a troll warrior, because Wizards of the Coast was like trolling you to think this is a good card. Like, this is a value trap. This is something where you're gonna try to make it work, but it really isn't, because it's just way too slow. You first have to pay 3 and tap it to create an Ice Manolith, which sucks. Right? You're netting 1 mana off of that. That's just awful. And then you have to tap it and then spend 8 mana to look at the top 4 cards. That's really ineffective.
If the first ability did not have the 3 generic, then yeah, sure. Potentially casual, but like still the 8 mana for the second ability is still.
The first ability is rather interesting for growing. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing this in a deck, but it certainly wouldn't be my first pick.
It's like if you have something left. So bulk. We're in bulk. We're playing this, boys.
I would say probably somewhere in the middle.
Generic Kaldhiem card is a generic Kaldhiem card. It's got all the features. The troll, snowy.
This one just feels like Wizards was like, crap, we got like 2 more legendaries that we got to add to this set. The management is on our ass, and they just slapped legendary on this one. Like, yeah, sure, that works.
Oh hey,
I feel
Speaking of discussing legends,
and it's still a god.
Turgid, God of Frights.
No. There's
This
a
one.
good
3
god
generic
in
and
the
2
set.
black.
Yes.
Has menace whenever opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a card, or discards a permanent card. you may put that card from the battlefield onto the battlefield under your control. People who are familiar with the channel
Shout out
have
to the
seen me play
collector
this
art,
deck.
by the way.
They've seen what happens, and it's tasty as fuck.
This is a beautiful card. Just
There's a backside. but we're not
Backside,
gonna
no.
talk
I guess
about
we're
that.
talking about Tigrid's Lantern, but I mean, Tigrid's Lantern is good if you have it in the 99, so I'll just throw that right in there. Like, it's okay in the 99. But, like, if you're running Tigrid, I'd run it, like, as your commander. And I know it has competitive
Yeah.
potential. I haven't built it to be competitive.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic. Even no matter
I put
what.
it.
the best part about this is just stealing someone's
You
land.
steal
Yeah.
their stuff,
Yes.
all of it, just all of it.
Mhm.
I put it.
Yeah, and the fact it's got a
Output
good body.
that in a 4-player game is so high. This is an undervalued card. Mark my words.
It is
No, it is very
absolutely
good.
disgusting, and I cannot wait to
I've
get my
had
hands
games
on one
where
of them.
people have just discarded their hand on turn 4 or 3 for me while I've had this on the field. And, I mean,
Yeah.
getting what? So 3 people. So, 3 opponents discarding 5 cards. How many of those are going to be permanents, and how many of those are going to be on my field? How many of those are lands?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I cast a Windfall. Oops.
Yeah, and I think Tigrid ends up being also an auto-include in any discard deck and any
Yeah.
discard deck strategy, or
In
even
any
wheel
Devere
decks.
deck, I cast Whispering Madness and I cipher it onto Tigrid, and now I'm
Ooh.
taking full potential of the constant mill, getting
Yep.
all the permanents, and I have Menace, so I'm taking full advantage.
So
of that.
just
Oh yeah, Menace is really good too. on a
just
commander,
watch my
I
deck
find.
build on Turgrid,
Yeah.
and then that's all I gotta say about that. Tolaf, God of Fury. I haven't actually looked at this one yet. For 2 generic and 2 red, he is a God of Trample. That's a 5/4. Whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt access non-combat damage, Tolaf deals damage equal to access to any target other than that permanent. Did we have an uncommon red card that was like that earlier?
Yeah.
And it's still terrible, but now it's in mythic form, and it comes with worthless equipment.
Oh yeah, what's the equipment on there?
Yeah.
It's a chaff mythic.
Mhm.
Someone's got a use for it.
Torras
I don't know
hammer.
what it is,
The
but
mythic on this one would be nice, because let's say you have some 2/2s on the field, and I swing at you with 1/1s. You're, of course, going to block those. But so long as this is on the field, you can just kind of trade off... Actually, no, correction. I'm thinking about this incorrectly.
So
No, it's, yeah. Never mind.
well, the
I mean,
the good thing is that it can
he's
beat to anything.
trample 5/4 mana. Like, he passes the vanilla test. He's a decent creature on his own.
Mhm.
But I don't know how much excess damage you're getting, and it's only
The
only a creature or planeswalker, so
The
they
saving
have to
grace is
block.
that you can... Actually, that's not going to be commander damage, is it? Commander
so
damage has to be
no.
combat damage.
no, it's not commander damage. But I mean,
you can't
the
ever make it work as commander damage.
Never mind then. No, that is...
Bulk banner thrown out.
You can, like, he'll do
Yeah,
his
you
up to
card the more
5
I don't like
damage,
it.
but because he has to deal the damage to another target. And
I think the big thing too is that you can use this towards like your opponent, like directly to their face, which is nice. I mean, the big
Yeah,
one
yes,
that
you
everyone's
can.
been talking
Yeah,
about
you
is like
can.
the combination with Blasphemous Act, which is like
yeah,
if you Blasphemous Act and it deals 13 damage to each creature, there's definitely going to be some overkill there. Then you can deal that overkill damage to somebody else. But at the same time, I just think like you have maybe one card you could do that with, and there's a couple of other red cards that can do that. But it's not the strongest. I would say this isn't something that you would do where it's like for Timmy. This would be something you could include in a 99, and it could be good, but it's not that great. This is
I
almost
put it
bulk bin or
in
99.
the bottom of 99. But I also don't want to put this above Cole either, so...
I think it's below
Yeah.
Cole.
Kolvori? Above or below Kolvori? I'll put
Your
below.
call.
Next one. Do you want to say what it is, Carl?
Oh,
Squirrel.
Is it squirrel? Yeah, it's the squirrel.
Yeah. It's your boy
Awesome.
Squirrel.
Rare Secrets. Legendary squirrel. 1 green, 3 colorless, can't be countered, indestructible, attacks each turn if able, and anytime a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So 1/1.
Guys, this is competitive.
This was one of the first cards that came out, and one of the first cards that actually made a deck tech about. I enjoy it. I think it can be on holds its own. I don't know what the play is, but the combat damage, the draw card, and the indestructible just makes it tasty, and it can be countered. I'd put this above Coma.
You'd put
I
this
put it
above
above
Coma? Ooh.
I wouldn't put
You
it
wouldn't?
above Coma, but definitely.
What would you put it?
No, I wouldn't.
I would put this below Coma, but like above, what is it, Finn?
So right underneath Coma.
Yeah, underneath
Sounds
Coma, right underneath.
Let's talk about the one that I made a decision about. Valky, God of Lies. He's 1 generic in black. When he enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand. For each opponent, exile a creature. Exile a creature they reveal this way until Valky leaves the battlefield. You can pay X to choose a creature card exiled with Valky with converted mana cost of X. Valky becomes a copy of that card. Its backside is Tybalt, the Cosmic Imposter, for 5 generic black and a red, and has a whole slew of abilities that basically gives you card draw, exiling something, and adding mana. And with more card draw. Because if we're running this Valky as a commander, are we ever going to see Tybalt on the field?
I don't think I would ever play Tybalt if I had access to Valky.
But I mean, you can't even play Tybalt from the command zone, right? Is that accurate?
No, you can play Tybalt from the command zone.
If
What
you're
was said
using it,
earlier is you can't tutor it from a deck. However, as you cast from the command zone, you're allowed to choose any side of the
Right,
card
okay.
as you cast it. But if you get it onto the field
Like-
without casting, you only can get Valky.
I mean, Tybalt, later game, Tybalt can be okay.
Valky on his own
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah. I honestly can't think of a situation where I would choose just Tybalt when I had
mean, if
access.
you were absolutely memeing, he's kind of like... It would be interesting.
One of the things
It's
is
terrible.
you
but
do get
the-
an emblem, which
Yeah,
means
the emblem
that
you get
never
is-
lose it. So mayhaps you put him down, you use some of his
Don't
abilities.
get me wrong. If anyone has the balls to play this Tybalt, he's going to immediately get attacked.
Oh, yeah.
Or he should. But that just should hopefully be stopped from happening.
I would put Valky at the top of
For
Timmy.
Timmy. It's the ultimate Timmy.
I can't deny the card draw is good. Because you're drawing 4 cards on its +2. Sure, you're paying 7 mana for it. You can play those cards whenever you want. Or potentially moving something fancy and playing it on your turn as well is nice. With its second ability. Valky, does it hold its own?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Valky
Do you
holds
like it?
itself.
Do we like it more than the squirrel though? Do we like it
No,
more than
not
Finn?
even close.
Nah.
I like it.
I would put it above Bergie.
I like it.
You like it above the squirrel?
I like it above the squirrel. It makes use for 2 mana. It exiles a creature from
Until it
each
comes back.
opponent's
Until it
hand,
leaves.
even if it's only temporary. If that was in white, that would cost me 5 mana. I can just ignore Tybalt. And I can copy those cards.
That is true.
Hi, the Eldrazi I exiled that I now pay.
Still 8/4.
I mean, I
Yeah,
have to
still
pay 10,
10.
but
You'd have to pay 12 for that Eldrazi. The only reason I'd argue it's a little bit weaker than Toski is because like you basically you'll have to pay 12 for it, and then the other thing too is like if you whiff, you whiff. Like if you just get Because there's often games where you might be up against like a Spellslinger deck and they
I
just have no
guess,
creatures.
but worst case scenario, it's like I've paid 3 mana. I've gotten to remove up to 3 creatures from my opponents, and if I got a hit, it's
2 mana.
great. Pardon?
2 mana.
2 mana, sorry.
That's
And
even better.
worst case scenario, I've got options. Even if 2 opponents have a good option, even if it's just a mana dork, I can play this early game. Now I'm holding 3 cards hostage for 2 mana, and it's a mana dork
Okay, fair enough.
for like 1 more mana.
I see.
So
I still feel like Toski has a little bit more value because like it will attack, you get card draw, you can win a little bit better. I mean, yes, you can hijack 3 creatures, but it may not be game changing. Card draw is always
it may
like,
not
very
be
powerful.
game changing, but it may be absolutely fantastic.
I think you just really
How many
love the card.
No, it's super fun. I think it holds its own for sure, and I think it's right near the top. It's a fun card to
It's definitely
experiment
near the
with.
top.
I can't wait for
By
you
the way-
when like I'm like downplaying it, and I can't wait for you to like absolutely destroy me with that card though when you play it. Like that's what's gonna happen.
All of us with this card. He's gonna
It's
play
just
like,
so chaos on this card.
Man, fucking run this. Just run it in blue-black Dimir, unsummon someone's commander, and then play this.
Yeah, there was a lot of like Dimir
3
support.
mana. 3 or after a Cyclonic Rift, so I Cyclonic Rift on someone's end step.
Well,
and if we're
don't-
not, like convinced
Okay.
it's now a finisher because I
Okay,
exile
yeah.
all 3 of your commanders, and
And
I
this
Now,
is
don't
why-
forget, Valky is
This is why I
Rakdos.
don't let my commander touch my hand. This shit.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
It
you
is
still have
very
access to
Rakdos.
red for this.
You have to have access to red. It's the detriment.
I mean, I guess if you didn't give a crap about Tybalt at all, you could just run mono black and never dream of running Tybalt.
No, I don't think you can do
So
that.
long as it's on the
You
card,
still-
you can't run it in
Yeah,
a
it's
mono
on the
black.
card. It's part of the ability
Valky will never be mono black.
and cost.
No, it's only Valky is just 1 generic and a black.
Right, but Tybalt is
Tybalt
still on
is-
the same card.
Yeah,
and if
it's
you're
the same
including
card.
Right. Okay, so
Oh.
then just
It's the same cardboard.
run 1 dual land with red on it. Just splash red.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you can make this work in mono black, and that quite frankly is enough on its own.
Yeah.
Not to mention, as your opponents panic in response to this, I don't know if let's say you've had this in for 1 turn, and
you'd never be able to have this card in a mono
yeah,
black.
they're gonna start freaking out. They're gonna need responses. You're gonna opposition agent, steal your tutors too, get my own tutors. Start like. I'm just thinking all the creatures they could have that could be fun. What if they have an opposition agent? You now have an opposition agent. Like, how many creatures can be in someone's deck that are important?
That's very true. Okay, I see the value here.
And
Still hold
you're
out for
getting around
Toski.
color. Like, man, what's a great hypothetical?
There's tons. There are tons of great hypotheticals.
Oh yeah. I mean, just so many.
All right,
Sounds
I'm
good.
ready to move to the next one.
Veragoth, Bloodsky Sire. He's 2 generic and a black. He has Death Touch. He's a Demon Rogue, and he has Boast. He's a 2/3. His Boast ability, for 1 generic and a black, target player searches their library for a card, then shuffles their library and puts that card on top of it.
So
I tell you what, it's irritating.
Mhm.
this is nice, but you have to wait until it attacks. So you have to put it on the field. You have to wait until your next turn to attack with it. And then you have to use the boast only after you've declared it an attacker.
Yeah.
Has
So it
death
doesn't
touch-
have to. It doesn't have to deal damage. By the way,
Yeah.
it just has to boast.
No, it has to attack.
It
Yeah.
has to, yeah.
It doesn't have
so-
to deal damage.
Now here's the thing. Let's say we're playing against this, and this is on the field. Now, you might get that first boast in, but even if it has death touch, people are going to block this to try and kill it and eliminate it as soon as possible, because nobody's going to allow a vampiric tutor to stay on the field if they can do anything about it.
But it's a 2/3, and you can also barter with it because it's target player.
That is true. That is true. So it's definitely. I don't think it'd really be competitive tier, and I'm hesitant to put it on hold its own. But it's definitely
it could go in the
better.
99.
I 100% support it going in the 99. I like the fact that it has Death Touch, because if it didn't have the Death Touch, there's not really like a whole lot of counterplay. It's like, okay, yeah, I gotta block it and just kill it. If you have Death Touch on something, if let's say like someone has been struggling for like a large part of the game, and you know, like they need that creature they got on the field, you attack them with this, they're like, oh, like, do I give up the creature or like to
And
Vargoth?
it's for a card. Like, it's a black tutor. You don't have to reveal it. It's
Exactly.
Yeah.
For that card, and it's like that could definitely be good. It's definitely a good politicking card. Yeah, so I like it. I would say 99. You put it for sure. Definitely not for hold its own. It's definitely not a Timmy card.
99. Whereabouts on the 99?
I would put it under Olvar.
Right, directly under Olvar, because Olvar is at the top.
Yeah.
Or actually, no. Sorry, underneath Errol.
Errol. Alrund?
Alrund. No, the in between blue and black. The blue.
Aegon, right there.
Yeah.
Aegon.
Aegon, that's what is it called?
Okay,
Yeah.
next one. Vega the Watcher. That sounds familiar for some reason.
It's trash. Get it out of here. It's an attempt to make
Let
you use
me
Echo.
at
That's
least
it.
say what it is, okay? It's one
he's right.
generic white and a
Echo
blue. It's a 2/2 flying bird spear. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, draw a card.
So that actually works on the foretell. So this
Right.
obviously has
It's-
that around it.
We want you to
Or your
play
commander.
Foretell.
But like you get
It's a
like
terrible
a
commander. It doesn't
flyer.
even
No, I
talk
mean
of
like you
itself.
can like your commander
it does.
procs it.
Your commander
No,
would
it's when
rock
you cast a spell from
Yeah,
somewhere
so
other than your
if-
hand, but that has to be in
So if
play
this is
for
in
it
your
to apply.
99,
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's in your 99, it'll proc
This card should
on
never
your
be
commander, but are you casting your commander enough that you're gonna get value out of this?
it depends. Like what kind of deck are you playing?
Listen, I'm 100% behind Cal.
Sure, fine, we'll throw it out.
I-
Just throw it out.
Yeah.
Done.
Throw it out. Just
Okay.
get rid of it.
The last
put it in the bin.
Hey, look, something.
the last
Garbage
card
one.
of the set is Vorniclex Monstrous Raider. Cue the Vietnam War sounds, as seen in my first video.
You want to know how you make an expensive
The trees,
card?
they speak
of
Vietnamese.
foiled Phyrexian text.
It's 4 generic and 2
So-
green. Do you want to read this one off, Daniel?
Sure. So, for generic and 2 green, it has trample and it has haste. If you would put one or more counters on a permanent or a player, you put twice as many of each of those kinds on that permanent or player. If an opponent would put one or more counters on a permanent or player, they put half as many of each of those kinds rounded down. So this has some interesting effects to it, but it can also backfire on you. If you are running an infect deck, this is a nice addition to it. You put 5 counters of poison on someone, you've won the game so long as this is on that turn. That's going to double it up to 10. But where this can backfire is enchantments that require counters to be removed, such as Decree of Silence. When this is on your field, it's going to cause them to deplete twice as fast, but when it's on the opponent's field, they're going to stay for the whole game. Having this as your commander, I wouldn't really advise, but other than that, it's still a solid card. It does have its ups, such as loyalty counters, 1/1 counters, wish counters for things on your field. It's definitely got its ups and downs. I wouldn't say it's competitive. It's 100% a Timmy card, but I think it has some
No, this is gonna be good.
potential to hold its own as well.
Absolutely, it shuts off other counter decks. Anything
Mhm.
else that's making 1/1.
If you're
shuts
playing
those
this,
down.
only you are allowed to
That
play
is-
counters.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, I'm gonna pull the wool out from under your eyes here, because that Vorniclex, he looks pretty familiar, doesn't he? Like the mana cost, it's 4 generic and 2 green, and he's a 6/6 body.
Well, this is
Trample.
the
This is just fancy colossal dreadmaw. Let's be real. This is just fancy colossal dreadmaw. I mean, no, I'm just joking. You know what? Like, honestly, this is the Timmy card for me. This is the Timmy card of the set.
This is
And I love it.
This is one of the few cards in the game that actually allow you to double infect, and double your damage output. We talked earlier on in the stream about the possibility of having enchantment cards such as Doubling Season, which unfortunately do not affect infect. This is that exception. So if you plan on doing an effect, especially if you are planning on running with the previous green commander that we talked about, you're going to want this in your deck.
Can we run this on its own though as a commander?
On its own as a commander, I feel like having it out in the open in the public setting allows for too much counterplay, and a lot of this will be revolved around kind of getting it out at an opportune time. And when it sits in your commander slot, I kind of feel as if it just allows your opponent to counterplay more against it than you to play for it. So personally, I would include it in my deck before I put it in the command zone.
We're about on the Timmy line. Are we putting this above or below Tybalt?
Top of the Timmy line, above Tybalt for sure.
This is top of the Timmy line.
This is top Timmy. This
Timmy
is Timmy
Prime.
This is what I want out of every bit of a Timmy card.
It's got the stomp. It's got the teeth. I'm pretty sure his name is Tim. If it wasn't Vortex.
Just Tim. Tim, Monstrous Raider.
There's some who call him Tim.
That's all of them.
I'm very
satisfied with our picks. I'm
it.
gonna save this. I'm gonna download it. Download image.
Yeah.
I downloaded it.
Download that image.
Which will be up later on. I'll probably post it somewhere, probably in Reddit for them to hate me.
Post it in Reddit, honestly.
Anyways.
One last thing. I think that we should take that green artifact and thrown out and just put it on the bottom of the thrown out because just
okay.
Awful.
Any other last minute?
The green artifact?
Any last minute touches we should do?
Yeah, put that artifact.
You know what? No. The blue flying creature. Can we put it in? Please don't talk about it. Like
Haka?
a whole new tier. Don't even include it. Not even a consideration.
Inga, like yes, it's thrown out.
No, like I want to like obliterate it. I don't like that card. The more I think about it, like I look through everything else. The more I think about it, the less I like it.
Hold on, I gotta make another row then. Add a row below.
unless somebody disagrees with me, but I think I absolutely despise it.
They're just like, hey, Jorah's Familiar gets used every once in a while. What if we did that, but awful?
Okay, send to the Shadow Realm.
Yeah. To the Shadow Realm.
There.
Or you could call it Y Mark Rosewater. Just Y.
There we go. That's the tier
beautiful.
lists. I gotta thank my homies for hanging out with me for 2 hours to talk about Magic the Gathering.
Loved it. Thank
Carl, Daniel, Persian. Thank you all. You're welcome, Mango. We appreciate being here. Oh, no worries, guys.
Nope.
Happy to hang out with you.
We totally are forced to be here against our will. This is a cry for help. Help us!
Oh, it's Reddit. They're not gonna help you. Go
no.
buy shares in GameStop.
Go buy stays in GameStop.
The lawyer touched it.
Nothing else matters.
They're like, oh no, peasants insider trading. We can't allow that. That's for us.
And cut the street.
Okay. Remember, guys, behave yourselves, enjoy your rectangles, and treat your goblins right. Peace. Oh yeah, well, you know what, Mr. Wolf, you can rewatch the whole stream, because I'm leaving now. So enjoy yourself. I'm quitting on you.
No.